Good afternoon, everyone. We are live broadcasting on channel 974, so I ask everybody be seated. Now I'm going to ask you to stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. A little housekeeping first. Please silence your phones, your watches, or anything else that can make a sound. Good afternoon and welcome to the Candidates Forum, which is being broadcast live on channel 974. I am Mary Louise Donor, Chair of the Election Committee. Before I begin, we did have early this morning a candidate resign from running for the board. Ronnie Reese is no longer running for a trustee. The ballots are already sealed and ready to be mailed, so her name is going to appear on the ballot. Please do not cast a vote for Ronnie Reese. If you inadvertently cast a vote for Ronnie Reese, please come to the association office and we will issue you a new ballot. This is the perfect opportunity for you to ask the candidates what they plan to contribute if elected to the Board of Trustees. This forum also gives the candidates the opportunity to explain their ideas and potential contributions to the association. All 7 candidates have recorded video statements, which are now airing on channel 973 and available on Front Steps, and we have removed Ronnie Reese's statement from those candidate statements being broadcast. 2 additional candidates meets and greets will be held on Friday, July 26, 2024 from 1 to 3 at Club Encore, and on Tuesday, July 30th from 6 to 8 at Club Encore. Trustee terms are for 3 years. This year there are 3 vacancies, 2 for a 3-year term and 1 for a 1-year term. Absentee ballot mailing will take place the week of July 22nd. You can vote for none, 1, 2, or 3 candidates. This includes your write-in votes. If you vote for more than 3 individual candidates, your vote will be invalid. Please carefully fill in those circles on the ballot so the scanner picks up your choices. Please do not adjust the folds on the pre-folded ballot. Leave those folds the way they are. You're going to cause havoc on Election Day. Once you have mailed your selection, please place your ballot in the blue ballot envelope and place the ballot envelope in the postage-paid envelope and seal the envelope. Now, most important, to permit the election committee to log in your vote, you must write your name and unit address in the upper left-hand corner of the postage-paid envelope. If this information is missing or you can't log your ballot, we cannot log your ballot as received, and your vote will be invalid. Also, once the ballots are mailed, a ballot box will be placed in the association office during business hours for you to deposit your ballot. All votes are anonymous, and once received, they will be logged in by the election committee and secured in a locked cabinet. If you have misplaced your ballot or failed to receive one, please contact the association office and ask for a replacement ballot. In addition, 1 vote per unit, however, split votes are permitted, so please request a split vote ballot from the association office. Also, if you own more than 1 unit, please submit a separate blue ballot envelope for each unit. Do not place multiple ballots in the ballot envelope. The annual meeting of the members, aka Election Day, is Friday, August 30th, 2024 at 1 p.m. Polls will be open that day at Willow Hall from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. At that time, a ballot box from the association will be moved to Willow Hall. You may drop your ballot in the ballot box at that time. Also, during this period, you will also be able to change your vote, rescind a proxy. If quorum is reached and the magic number is 898, ballots will be opened and counted just after 1 p.m., and this will be broadcast live on channel 974. If there is no quorum, the meeting will be adjourned for 30 days, so please vote. Now on to the forum, finally. If you are an owner in good standing or have voting rights, you're invited to ask a question. Please check in with Samantha Boker over in the corner, accompanied by a member of the election committee, seated against the wall. You will be given a number, ascending order. Take a seat in the queue based on the number assigned. One question only. If you have a second, third, etc. question, you may return to the queue, but first stop by the desk and get a new number before taking a seat in the queue. We received 0 mail-in questions as well as 28 email questions by the July 17, 2024 deadline. These questions will be read after the first round of in-person questioning, even if they are considered by the moderator as duplicate or similar or have already been answered. This year's returning moderator is Nicole Atlack. Nicole is an associate attorney with the firm of Caruso, Smith, Apicini in Fairfield, New Jersey. Ms. Atlack handles both criminal and civil litigation as well as family law matters and administrative proceedings. Ms. Atlack reserves the authority to reject any question deemed inappropriate. Nicole, I finally turned it over to you.
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for having me. I'm looking forward to a wonderful forum here today, and thank you all to our candidates and again for everybody for being here this afternoon. So, Mary, thank you for such a wonderful welcome. As Mary had indicated, I do reserve the right to, I keep jurisdiction over these questions that are being asked. Questions can be addressed to one, several, or all of the candidates. Questions that are asked to all of the candidates will be answered in alphabetical order, and then the first question to the first candidate, the second question to the second candidate, and then we'll continue going in that order. Emailed questions will be read into the record, as was just indicated. That will be done after the first round of in-person questioning. And again, as moderator, it's my decision to determine whether or not those questions are duplicates, are similar to some of the live questions, or have already been answered by either one or all of the candidates. Please note, I do retain express discretion over each and every question that is asked, either live or via email. I will not tolerate any personal attacks on either one or all of the candidates here today. I will also reserve the right to limit the scope of any questions that are asked today. And I want to put everybody on notice that any questions that are relating to pending litigation or personnel matters will likely be rejected. I will give you the opportunity to ask the question, but it will likely be rejected. Candidates may also question one another. So if a question is posed to one specific candidate, the question, in their answer, another candidate may question another candidate as to that specific question or ask them to provide an answer to a question that has been asked. Closing statements will be in reverse order. So we will go starting with Ms. Weinstein at the end, and we will work our way up to Ms. Carmody. Candidates may use their closing statement to clarify their position or any statements that they made during this forum this afternoon. All statements, questions, and answers are limited to 2 minutes. We have this lovely row of timekeeping ladies in front of me. They will show a flag. We have an amber flag for 30 seconds remaining. We have red for when it's out of time. We also have a bell that will be dinged when you have reached your 2 minutes. So those will be your warning symbols. Please make sure to use your time accordingly. Candidates, I will permit you time to finish a sentence. Don't worry, I'm not going to cut you off right in the middle. All right, and with that that is all my housekeeping rules. We have our 6 candidates here today that are vying for 3 vacancies, 2 for a 3-year term and 1 for a 1-year term. And I'm going to start here with you. We have Joy Carmody. We have Mark Kasevniak, Patricia Keating. We have Roberta Klotz, Louis Mayoko, and we have Faye Weinstein. And with that, those are our 6 candidates here that you'll be hearing from this afternoon. I open the floor to you, Ms. Carmody, for opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Most of you know me because there it is. Can you hear me now? A little closer. I'm sorry. One would think I'm loud enough. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to see so many people here, and I hope there are many people watching at home. One of the things I think we have to do is thank the election committee and the people from KLVW-TV. Both of those groups of people work tirelessly, and it amazes me the zeal that they have and the fortitude. And they keep coming back, God bless them. So that's really pretty cool. I've been on the Board of Trustees before, as some of you might know, and I've served on many committees. I'm sure, or I hope you have read my bio and that of the other candidates as well. All I can say to you is, quite concisely, is that I'm a very concerned person. I love this community, and I want to see it not only prosper, but grow. It's a great place to live, but you know what? No place is above being better. Good, better, best. So I think we can, as a group, do a really good job of governing our committees as long as we're prudent and as long as we remember our fiduciary responsibilities. I think sometimes in the past, some things have been overlooked, and perhaps we haven't had all the input from the residents that I would have liked to have seen, but hopefully that'll change in the future. I think I would be a good addition to the board because I know many things that have gone on, and my learning curve is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Krasevniak?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Is this working? Try again. Better? Okay. I have been living in the village with my wife and I for the last 7 years. I have come to appreciate the village. It is one of my favorite places on earth. And I've lived here for the period of time going to different clubs, going to the pool, enjoying the amenities, and I would like to contribute myself, my own time, to make an effort to help out and improve our living conditions. Many of the residents don't feel they're being treated equally. Sometimes some of the issues that they've had or concerns seem to fall on deaf ears. I've listened to people going through the village, and there are many issues as far as conditions and health conditions as well. One of my problems with that is that I feel I can do better if I got on the board and could kind of bring the cohesiveness back into the group and have everybody, the older and younger versions, which we've got our 65 to 55 groups, we've got our 75 to 90 plus groups. And it would be nice to be able to try to work them cohesively together to kind of have everyone enjoy the facilities and the way it works. I appreciate the opportunity to do this today. I'm a little nervous, as you can tell, but I want to thank you and appreciate your attendance.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Yeah, hi everybody today. I'm a newbie at this. It's my first time being on a candidate for a board or anything to do with politics, but I've been here for 4 years plus a few months, and I love living here, but as the other candidate said, there's always room for betterment to get better and best. And it was so great to be at the meet and greet the other day because I listened to a lot of people and their problems, and even a beautiful woman who was here 30 years plus, and she said it was magnificent back then. And if it's possible, I mean, I'm not Superwoman, but ideally I would like to get back to that feeling that we had 30 years ago with our pride, integrity, justice, honesty, transparency, not worry about what's tomorrow? Is there going to be this? Is there going to be that? Just so many complaints going on deaf ears, like he said, and I don't want anybody to have that problem that when they make a call, it should be answered. Somebody should go out and check any complaints, not just say whatever they tell them. You're on a list, wait, and nobody gets back to anybody. We need to take care of our people here, our owners. We come first. Our houses come first. And it's not looking so good lately. So whatever I can do, I hope that I can be an asset in the law that I know, the business that I know, and the love of everybody here in this village that I have so much compassion for. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
Oh. Is that better? Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming, whether you're here or watching at home. I'm Roberta Klotz, a candidate for your Board of Trustees. I've lived in the village since, and I wrote this out so I don't screw it up, 2009. This is not a bad thing. I have been here longer than most of the other candidates, but I can give you information and bring to you all of my years of experience in this community. No one can know everyone in the village, but I am friendly with people who do aquasize, play bocce and pickleball, do official rummy cue and unofficial rummy cue, volunteer for Viston, play with trains, enjoy poker and crafts, and farm. They have dogs and they do KLVW-TV. Thank you, by the way, for all your help on this election cycle. For those who don't know me, I'm a member of Village West Ort, one of the last long-standing national organizations in the community. I'm a member of the tennis club and have been when it was the Tennis and Social Club. I am a member of the New Jewish American Club. Over the years, I have participated in other clubs and tried other things. Currently, I play social, rummy cue, mahjong, and participate in chair yoga. As for service to this village, I have served and chaired the Welcome Committee. I have worked on and chaired the Election Committee and worked on the Administration Committee. I believe all of these experiences have given me a good overview of our village. I believe we have to be able to react to change and the needs and the wants in our village. We are self-directed, and we must maintain our property values. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko, whenever you're ready.
Yes. Good afternoon, election committee members, management personnel, fellow nominees, and LVW residents, and a warm welcome to our proctor, Nicole.
Thank you.
A little about me. I have a bachelor's of science in accounting and have been successfully managing hospitals and various corporations with budgets exceeding $100 million. Having lived and served in other HOA communities, I fully understand the potential issues and the advantages and sometimes disadvantages of living in an HOA community. My wife, Kathy, and I moved to LVW as full-time residents about 10 years ago, and we immediately became involved in many clubs and activities, especially in helping our neighbors and other residents that were a little bit further. It was my pleasure to serve on the LVW Finance and Architectural Committee since in our first couple of years as residents here. My involvement on these committees afforded me the ability to interact with many residents and develop an appreciation of the several issues the community was faced with. In 2016, I was elected as one of your Board of Trustee members and served as your president for many of those years. I remained on the board until 2022, at which time I chose to take a hiatus involved in being attentive to our family issues. I remained full dedicated to what family needs were at the time, and I enjoyed those past 2 years. Feel free to ask me anything about my past service to this community, as well as ongoing potential issues our community may be facing. I will give you an honest answer to the best of my ability, as long as it does not violate confidentiality of the LVW policies. I thank you all for your continued support, and I am honored to be here today.
Perfect timing. Thank you. Ms. Weinstein.
Good afternoon. First, let me thank the Election Committee, KLVW, and Nicole for participating and doing all hard work that they've been doing. When I agreed to be president, I knew the job would not be easy. My commitment to reestablishing good communications would be the key to changing the course of LVW. I began by implementing Coffee with the Board. With the amazing support of my fellow board members, we listen and discuss your concerns and ideas. By the way, I personally have shouldered that expense. Many good ideas are offered by you, the residents, and as a board, we move them forward. This open line of communications has helped to reduce much of the tension between residents and those that serve as your Board of Trustees. Following the tragic collapse of a Florida condominium building, the New Jersey legislature made sure that associations were being responsible and had enough funds saved for repairs. Our reserve structure, developed by our forefathers, has continued to be well-funded as determined by the Finance Committee, management, and the Board of Trustees. Until we received the official report, we understood we needed to be very conservative in our expenditures. Maintaining individual homes is one way LVW outshines many 55-plus communities. As our community has aged, more maintenance is required. We currently spend just under $3 million on fixing roofs, adding gutters, installing AZAC, replacing cedar shakes, as well as painting and power washing, etc. The cost of materials has risen as fast as your groceries. The board and management continually look for ways to contain these costs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, for your opening remarks. And with that, we'll start with our first live question. I just remind everybody asking questions, please give your name and your address prior to asking, and whether the question is addressed to all candidates or a specific candidate, please.
Thank you. My name is Beverly Kraft. I live on Friar Court, and this question is to all candidates. What is your position on self-governing versus a management company? Why, and what has been your experience with each?
Thank you. We'll start with you. Carmody.
Okay.
Your microphone is enough.
Beverly, first of all, as far as management companies, I've seen good and I've seen bad. However, I happen to be a little partial to the way we run things here. I like the idea that we have our own people on grounds, and I love the idea that we can interview and choose our own people who come into our homes. One of the reasons I wanted to live in one of the leisure villages is because we had the services that we have. I like the idea of having our own people because I feel more comfortable with them. However, that being said, I do believe in a selection of, let's say, higher management people. I think with higher management being our 5 managers and our head person, which would be Jim's position, I really do believe in interviewing and going not just in our community, but going outside as well. I have suggested what you would call a headhunter, a company that would find 5, 6, or maybe 10 people suitable for a particular job here in our village. I think we should look not just to our own people, but to people outside who might be a little bit more qualified or have different qualifications who could lead us. I love Jim, but someday he's going to retire, and we have to figure out a way to replace him. And I really think that we have great people here, but I'd like to encompass others who aren't necessarily in our employ right now.
Thank you. Mr. Kusevniak?
There we go. I am very satisfied with our governing system in LVW, and I'd like to see it continue pretty much as is. I have issues as far as the services, etc. But as far as the people go and the work ethic, it seems to have gone a little awry as of late. Management is an important factor, and it trickles down. In other words, depending on how good your managerial people are and your employees are, and how well they're supervised, and how satisfied the residents are, and how the maintenance is kept up, etc., is a big concern, and I think it would be a problem if we didn't continue to try to grow and enhance the village. The thought of bringing outside company, because there are many of them, you see them advertised on TV, that have placements, that have interviews, that will handle anyone of any caliber for a job, I think might be worthwhile investigating. And it has been discussed somewhat between some of us, that we could look at that toward the future and perhaps help better enhance our village. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Yes. There are pros and cons on both sides of management company and having our own government. I think it's good to have our own governing thing here. We're more independent. I think there has to be changes made, you know, new blood, new people, like Joyce said, from the outside, maybe people with more knowledge. It's getting a little lax, and we need to step it up. Now, if we have a management company, they watch everything, and I know from neighbors when I first moved in, they said, we tried, but it was knocked down. But there was a lot of good pros to it, the way they watch things, and there are a lot of cons, and we have to learn what they are. We would have to interview them to see, as a community, is this what we really want? Or do we just want to upgrade our system like you upgrade a computer? We might need an upgrade here on new managers, new whatever we have to do to make this work like clockwork and not worry about our homes, not worry is the maintenance done properly. Do we have the right personnel in there? We have to have more involvement who get our employment. We need to be involved in that process of who we're going to hire, more so than just, oh, we got a new manager, or we got to do this. We need to be more involved. And all we can do is better this place by having our input as homeowners more involved in this, because we don't want to leave here. We want this to be the time of our life. And with God's help, hopefully we can do all of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Beverly. I just want to make sure I understand it. You want to know how we feel about self-governance, and you want to know what our experiences are.
I wanted to know if your experiences with self-governing and your experiences with a management company. There are two big differences on that. And so far I haven't heard the experience with a management company. I've heard what they could do, but so far it doesn't appear that anybody has had an experience or worked with a management company.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
I have had two experiences with self-managed associations. I lived in Radburn before the big election committee issues. It was a self-managed company. It was a smaller community, and it was extremely hands-on with the Board of Trustees and their manager. Very few complaints, more with architectural issues. Here in this village, I live under a self-managed association that has direct responsibility to ensure that management does its job. That's the job of the trustees. The board has that responsibility to maintain our community, be it the homes, be it the facilities, be it the grounds. And hopefully I will be ultimately responsible to ensure that things are done correctly. In terms of experience, this is my experience. I have not lived under a management company situation. I have family that have managed projects. I have friends who live in communities where they are using a management company, and their complaints are very often far worse than some of the things that I have heard here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko?
Thank you, Beverly, for the question. I have had the pleasure of experiencing both types of management styles. We were in an HOA community where the management services were contracted out. It was very efficient. It was very demanding. This is the rule, and this is what you have to abide by, period. So there was not the flex that you may get when you are self-managed. Self-managed, a lot of burden is placed on the community manager because it's up to the community manager to raise the bar to the level that the residents are going to be expecting, such as we expect here at LVW. Comments were made about what it was 30 years ago versus what it is today. That's something that the board has to address, and that's how you address it with the manager. If it is not compliant and if it is not satisfied, then appropriate actions must be taken. But I found like I said, in most cases, the self-managed gives you a little bit more of a personal touch, whereas the managed company coming in, you have independent contractors coming in and out. But in my experience, they did do their job, and they did it very efficiently.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I do not have experience with a management company, but when I first got on the board and there were whispers of people wanting to bring in a management company, I did a lot of research. And what I found was that in many of the communities, the turnover of the management companies is extensive. They rarely last very long. We have the self-governing, and it has worked for us for over 50 years. What we get with self-management is that we get to make sure that things are done the way we kind of want them to be done, and we appreciate how they're done. With a management company, you don't get any of that opportunity to give much input. It is the way they decide, and that's the end of it. When we say that we need people with more experience, I look at Jim's resume, I see the certifications that he has gone through the CIA and the various organizations that help develop condominium associations. With over 40 years of experience, I don't think we could have found anyone better for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your
all.
question. We'll take the next question, please.
Good afternoon, Al D'Amato, another leg of Friar Court. This question is for all candidates. You do know that we have our yearly maintenance increase that is currently a flat rate across the board. My question is, are you in favor of continuing a flat dollar amount across the board, or would you favor a percentage across the board? And your answer, I'd like a detailed response as to why or why not.
Thank you. Mr. Krasevniak, we'll begin with you.
Thank you for that question, Mr. D'Amato. I take issue with our our monthly fee increases, okay? I've lived here for 7 years, and it was a little over $300 for my unit when I moved in. And now, 7 years later, it's gone up almost 25%. So I think that is a general concern, not addressing your issue yet. But if we do a percentage, and then we have to investigate each home to see what amenities may have been put in, that it may be worth more or less, or would it just be if you own a Blair, you pay $7. If you own another one, you pay $15. I don't know if working a percentage or just square footage or how it would come about, but at this point, I'd take issue with the monthly fees anyway. So I don't know if I can answer that question any better than I have so far, but thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Hi there. Thanks for the question, Mr. D'Amato. I'm not thrilled at all with the HOA fees, I must say. I've been here 4 years, and every year it's gone up 20, 20, 20, 25. I'm not getting any better maintenance done to my house. As a matter of fact, none. I get the grass cut, and now it's every 3 weeks. My sprinklers don't work. I don't know, according to the budget, everything's going to be raised next year, and I understand prices have gone up. But I do believe, we can't predict the future, but I think 2025, everything's going to drop back down. So wood is doubled, and it's going to go back down. A lot of things are going to go back down, and prices have to be changed because even the world we live in is out of control. So a lot of these fees that constantly go up, I don't think well, we can discuss that next week, but I don't think the budget is really truly reflecting the correct costs of things, or they're predicting everything too high for next year. And there's a lot of people who cannot afford even a penny more at raising their things. And if we were properly maintained and budgeted, there shouldn't be something, our fees go up so much every year. If it was properly accounted for and financed for, I just don't understand. I don't appreciate paying close to $5,000 a year to get my grass cut and have no sprinklers. And then no. So I don't know if I answered your question at all. Percentage or fees, I'm not for it. There has to be some other, it can go up, but it has to be fair and square, and really told to us why, the exact reason why it has to go up. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
Hi. I do due diligence. So part of my preparation for this, not knowing what questions were coming, I pulled out the model square footage for each of our units, because I've heard discussions about this watching board meetings at home. We have 232 units without garages. They are usually the smaller units. All of our units, whether they are in Willow, Countryside, the Greenery, or Encore, have square footages that come within a range of other units that are very similar. It's my understanding that that is how the base determination for each unit is set up. I know that this issue has come up in the past. I've been here 15 years, and there have been committees from finance and ad hoc committees that have explored this. I think it's possible that this is the time, because we have so many new residents, that this has to be explored again. But I think it's important that that committee decision, if it is explored by a committee, has to be presented to the community so that everyone understands why the base is what the base is. Our bylaws say that all unit owners have to share the cost of our maintenance fees. So when you take the base and you look at an increase, that has to be equalized, and I believe that's what the past boards have done. I may be wrong, but maybe it's time to explore this and give the community an idea of why things are the way they are, and why my unit has roughly the same as a larger unit in another section. My home may be newer, but my garbage disposal broke, maintenance came in, and for free fixed it. Saved me a plumbing fee, and saved me buying a new disposal.
Thank you.
That's what we're paying for. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoka?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we do have a method of allocation that's based upon a flat amount currently, and as Roberta Klotz had mentioned, this topic has come up in the past where there was an attempt to restructure how the dues, how the cost of running this association would be equitably distributed to all the other units, whether it be square foot, age of home. It became very complex. At this point, if I were to be asked if I have a preference, I would say let's stay with what we have. We can always study the matter later. One of the setbacks of doing it by square footage is you're not accounting as to the age of the unit and what resources are being consumed in order to maintain the integrity of that unit versus a newer unit versus one that has sidewalk versus one that does not, requires more lawn care, the other one does not. One requires replacement of the concrete driveway every 25 years, and so on. So those are the complicated issues that must be addressed if we were to take that approach. But I think the current method, I find it equitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
As the past three, or including me, have indicated, the maintenance fees were originally based on square footage. So the smaller homes already pay less than someone with the larger homes, such as the Victorian or even the Hastings. The Willow units right now are going to need new siding in the immediate future. And that siding is going to be very expensive. Whereas in the Encore, they had vinyl siding, and instead of painting it this year, we were able to we were able to power wash and bring those homes looking as almost like new. I am in favor of keeping the current system. I think that whatever system you use, there's going to be somebody who's not happy. What we have done is we have asked the Finance Committee to revisit this in the coming year and to come up with a review and to see if this is the best way, what we do now is the best way to handle it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Carmody, we'll end with you.
Well, I've heard a lot of very good suggestions.
Mike,
Can you hear? No, I am.
get closer.
I've heard many good suggestions and many good points raised. I do, however, believe that a more equitable solution should come about. If a person has a smaller home, such as in Oxford or one of the homes that don't have a driveway, I don't really see why their raise should be the same as somebody in one of the larger homes with 3 bathrooms. You know, many of us picked smaller homes because they were more affordable than the grand models that we have here. And in order to keep prices and our budgets in line, we have to do things that are more equitable to people in all different size homes. I live in a home that is kind of in the middle, all right? But on my street, I saw 2 units have their roofs replaced. And every single piece of plywood on those roofs had to be redone. Plywood is expensive right now. On other roofs, there may be 1 or 2 pieces of plywood. There's a lot of variables, but I really don't think it's equitable for people in the smaller units to bear the same burden as people in the larger units. We have a very good base right now. Everything is structured pretty well, but I think it can be improved upon to make things more equitable. We have to make things more affordable for people to stay in their homes, where I'm afraid of pricing people right out of their homes. We have to be fair, and we have to be conscious of those who bought in their own price range and shouldn't be penalized for those who live in the larger homes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you for your responses, although only half of you went in the direction I was looking. But thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Lezen Randall. I live on Cambridge Circle. I asked this question of Mark Patricia, and Roberta. I singled you three out, not just because your last name ends in K,
Noticed.
but because the three of you have not previously served on the Leisure Village West Board of Trustees. So, if elected as a trustee, what can you uniquely offer to the Board of Trustees and the residents of Leisure Village West?
Thank you for your question. Mr. Kasevniak, since we began with you, I'm going to begin with Ms. Keating for this question. And this will be limited to just Ms. Keating, Ms. Klotz, and Mr. Kasevniak. Yes.
So what unique quality, what unique thing can I bring to the community? Well, let's see. I intend to do great things. And like I said, I'm new, but I'm a quick learner. And I'm going to dive into this full force. And I'm going to find out everything that needs to be found out in every division of this place to help people, to make sure they can maintain their homes if they need help in any way. You know, I've been an entertainer all my life, plus a police officer, plus anything that comes my way, a contractor, whatever I need to do. So I'm kind of unique in my own way, but I want to share those qualities and those talents with everybody that I meet. And if I'm elected, you know, I will do everything that I can. With truth, honesty, justice, transparency, perseverance, I will not stop. And I will make sure all questions are answered. Any concerns, anything about your houses, when you need help. If you need to call me, that would be much appreciated that you do that, because you will get a direct answer from me, and then I will get the information necessary for anything that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
Hi, thank you, Steve. What I will bring to the board is common sense, I believe. Those of you who know me or have worked with me on committees or have met me teaching Mahjong, which I did for a private group, or learning bocce, I have common sense. I can communicate. I care about people. I worked as the law librarian for the U.S. Attorney's Office for over 20 years. I had to work and negotiate with attorneys, paralegals, and other paraprofessionals based on the use of time that I had to provide them services. I know how to delegate. I've supervised staff. I know how to budget. I have worked on school boards through very trying times. I've won elections and I've lost elections, but I've supported my community. I've kept an open mind, and I will continue to do so here. I like to listen and see what people think, but I also can make my own decisions. I believe I have integrity, and I will have no problem living up to the code of ethics that the board members follow. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Kasevniak, we will end with you.
Thank you, Steve. I have a history of working with people. I was condo president in Wildwood for 3 years. I served on the borough council up in Elmwood Park for 6 years. I managed several of these organizations, working with people and supervising the work being done. I have a construction background, so I'm familiar with heavy-duty concrete as well as framing and shoring, etc. I have a varied background that can be helpful in directing future work, and I would appreciate the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you for your responses. I wish good luck to all 6 candidates and look forward to working with at least 3 of you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, candidates. My name is Ivan Gilbert, and I live at 4A Edinburgh Lane. This question is to all candidates. I've read your statements listened to your KLVW presentations, heard from you what you had to say today. And one of the common themes through everything is that you've all listed your resume, but what I really haven't seen is what your goals and objectives are going forward. What I'd like to hear from each of you is what your goals and objectives are, if elected, and how you intend to accomplish them. For those who have listed your goals and objectives on your statements, if you want to expand on them, that would be fine.
Thank you. Who did we leave off with? Ms. Klotz, we'll begin with you.
Okay, my husband said I shouldn't say this, and I sometimes listen to him and I sometimes don't, but one of my goals, my personal goals, is to get elected. I love this village, I live here, and I care about it, and I truly want us to be able to become and stay, not become, stay better than we were if there are problems, and have this a happy home for everyone. My goals and objectives, if I were elected to the board, would be to support the reserves as a trustee, looking at things that the Finance Committee presents to us with an objective eye, because I believe the reserves help with continued financial security for this village. I support planned maintenance of homes. As a resident, I'm not quite sure how we structure our maintenance programs to maintain the best home environment that we have for people. So I would like to see some planning in that way. I support updating and beautifying grounds. I know we have a new grounds manager. As a board member, I'd like to hear from him and our community manager of what their specific plans are. We had family here because we just had a family event, and my brother, who has been in this village when my parents lived here from 1989, was horrified with what he saw. He asked what happened, did they buy the wrong seed? I want to increase the use of technology and support our internet and facilities, and increase volunteer participation and community service through expanded use of our volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko, whenever
Yes.
you're ready.
Thank you, Ivan. Some of the goals that I would expect to be achieved during my term would be to have a continued growth in the professional decorum of the board as well as management during our board meetings, as well as during the workshop meetings. How to do that is to bring forward that continuity that was spoken about by Faye Weinstein, that will develop harmony within the board. We all have disagreements, but it's how you deal with that disagreement that has to be leveled down somewhat. The other professional finance that I bring to the board is all my achievements and my experience in the professional world of finance, dealing with hospitals and various corporations. So it's extensive information. I'd like to bring that back and help the Finance Committee as well as management to better perform financially. The reserve studies, we've done a phenomenal job. I think that needs to be applauded. We could probably do better. We need to further think into the future and plan financial disposition of assets more equitably than what I've seen over the past 5 years. So that's some of the things that I'm hoping to bring to the board and how to achieve them.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. My first goal is to continue my commitment to being open, honest, and transparent with all the residents, to allow you to ask me questions and to get the right answers. I think you've seen a change in our board this year, and I'd like to continue in that same direction. Everything seems to be really working very nicely this year. that saved us probably $20,000, $30,000. Next year, we have a big decision to make. The TV and our contract with Verizon is up, and it is my honor to work with the residents as well as the board to make a decision what we want to do. Do we want to continue with bulk TV, or do we turn that around and say, you buy whatever you want? If you want to stream, you know, Hulu or Prime or whatever the company, Disney, rather than a cable company, that is up for discussion. And having my background in IT, I would very much like to be able to participate in that conversation. Those are just some of the goals and objectives that I see for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody?
Sure. That's a great question, Ivan. Thanks so much. One of my pet peeves, or one of the things that I really worry about, is the termite infestation because we live in the Pine Barrens. And as some of you might know, I've had 2 entire outside walls replaced in my house due to termite damage. There was no indication of termite damage on the outside of my unit, just a simple crack in one of the walls. But yet I had to have 2 walls replaced because they were so deteriorated. I would like to bring back the termite prevention program. We abandoned that about 4 or 5 years ago, and I think it would be money well spent because the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I worry about our home structures quite a bit. It's a personal issue, but it's something that many of you have, and some of you might not even realize. Another thing that I would like to utilize is we have front steps. It's there. We're paying for it. We have it. But we haven't been utilizing it to its full extent. When I headed the technology committee, most of the people that were on the committee went out to 3 different developments each, not just senior developments, but others within the jurisdiction we have here. And they found that front steps has been abandoned by most of them, but yet the most successful usage was that of requesting maintenance. You can request maintenance to your home. Oh, Yves.
30 seconds.
You go. That's not enough. Day and night. But those are 2 things. And also I'd like to merge some of our needs and some of our purchases with other condo developments, with Leisure Village East, with Leisure Village Original. If we got together, purchasing power is great. You know that. You can buy things in bulk a lot cheaper than if you buy them individually. I'd like to see that done. And I'd like to, for lack of better words, use the people that we have here. Oh, I can't talk anymore. All right. To be continued.
Thank you. Mr. Kasevniak?
Would you want to take some of my time?
Yes.
Thank you, Ivan. I've addressed some of this in my bios. My concerns are the condition of the village. Many of the things, the parking access, the condition of some of the structures, the past few years of amenities, which is a scary word in my mind anymore, when we're going into hundreds of thousands of dollars of, in some case, overzealousness. These things is what got me, I'll say, mad in the past. And that's why I'd like to come back running again, hopefully more successfully this time. I don't have you next to me this year. It was kind of fun. But I would appreciate the opportunity to try to get some of expenses, parking, conditions of the lawns, and on and on and on back into reasonably forward-thinking, convenient amenities that we can all enjoy and live with. I would like to see that continue in the right direction when I don't see it right now. I'm sorry, but thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Thank you, Nicole. Yes, Well, you know, it's hard being last because they've said a lot of things that I 100% agree with. I think the amenities that were done are beautiful, but they're way overboard. I think a lot of houses were neglected because of the amenities. And like I said earlier, the people in their houses come first. We don't need, you know, crown molding in a pool hall. We don't need it like we're in a mansion or a castle to play pool. We can just have usual things that we can afford. But we come first, and the stuff we play with comes second. We use the pool 3 or 4 months out of the year. Now there's a giant structure being built. I don't know, I heard a lot of complaints. I think that cost an awful lot of money. I also am not happy with the concrete. So my objectives would be, we need to really tighten up our belts. We need to really look at things. There has to be a cap on what is spent, especially these huge costs in the hundreds of thousands that people have to vote on, and it has to be at least half of the community voting on it and saying yes or no, because a lot of people don't even know what's going on unless they get the booklet, and then it's too late. It was from the month before. I'd like to have meetings conducted in a different way so people are very well informed on what our intentions are as a board and a community, working together. If we don't work together and there's division, there's already division in different clubs and different things going on. We need more unity, and by doing that, we have to be the voice and the ears, and we have to show them this is how we're going to do everything, as we are homeowners. And we want to make everybody happy because we're going to put you on alert to anything that's going on here, whether financial, building, your houses, everything. I just want it to be so clear and transparent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to correct something. The termite program has been in effect for as long as I've been here, and it is still in effect. Every year, Viking goes around and sprays a certain number of homes, and every 7 years, every home has been sprayed.
Thank you, Ms.
This
Weinstein.
year,
Thank you, Ms.
excuse
Weinstein.
me, but
Thank
I'm
you.
talking.
You spoke already. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates.
You can use the remainder of your closing argument if you would wish to address any questions that are left outstanding.
You said we could ask and respond to people.
Ms. Weinstein, you did respond to your question. You used your allotted time. Thank you.
There's a good example.
Excuse me, sir. Your name, please.
Thank you. Yeah, Ron Owens, 1145 A Thornberry. Having worked over the years with many teams of people working together has yielded some amazing results. We need 7 of you to work together on our behalf. If people start picking up personality quirks...
Sorry, sir, do you have a question?
I do.
Okay, and is it addressed to all candidates, or...?
It's addressed to all of them, and
Thank
that
you.
is what they can do to foster a good feeling amongst the board members with each other. Should you notice that someone is being cruel to somebody else that's contraindicated, what would you do about it? To what degree would you even be aware of it?
So just so I am aware of your question before I present it to the candidates, it's what, if anything, will they do as a candidate, upon election, to foster good feelings amongst the community? Is that correct?
Amongst themselves.
Oh, amongst themselves. Okay. Does everybody understand the question? Yeah. Okay. And we're going to begin with Mr. Mayoko.
Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome.
My past experience in multi-corporations has afforded me the opportunity to interact with many different cultural types, many types of individuals, many types of religion background, ethnic background, professional background, blue-collar background, white-collar background. In that period of time, I have learned how to cultivate individual needs, individuals' desires, individual motivations, along with some individual quirkiness, where individual egos come up and I have learned through those experiences how to quelch some of those ego so that it benefits the organization as a whole, so that we better understand where that individual is coming from by objecting so many times. The same thing with somebody who is very quiet, who may have tremendous amounts of information, but because of the shyness is somewhat laid back. I've been able to bring that individual forward so that he or she is more comfortable in making a presentation. That's what I plan to do. That's what I have done in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
I think if you've come to the coffee with the board, you see how well that there are a minimum of 5 of us that have really gotten along and work extremely well together. We share our penchant for reaching out to the residents and listening and hearing and responding as best we can. I believe that we all can get along, and that by keeping the personalities out of it, I get excited when I hear misinformation, and I apologize for getting excited, but I really don't want the residents to walk away with bad information. So one of the things that we do is in our meetings, we don't all agree, but we have a great deal of respect for each other, and we have worked very well together this past year. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody?
I'm very happy to hear that everyone has worked very well together this last year. It's my belief that if you don't have respect, you don't have anything that's going on. Perhaps 5 people working together is a good thing. 7 people working together is a better thing.
Right.
I don't care for people who think that they can chide or make fun of other people or just poke them just to see what they're going to do. I don't accept that, and I won't accept that. And I also believe that conduct unbecoming a trustee should be pointed out, and people should work in a reserved manner. I've taken courses at the Law Center in Brunswick, and we've discovered, and I've trained people for peer mediation and conflict resolution. I think some of those things can be used at inappropriate statements and things that go on in the board. I think attacking each other is unconscionable. Speaking in a normal tone of voice, in a tone of voice that we all can accept and we don't feel offended by, is the main issue. I can get along with just about anybody, but I'm not going to let anybody walk on me either. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kusevniak, before you answer, I just want to remind everybody, please keep any side chatter to a minimum, just so we can make sure we hear all the candidates' responses. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Ron. I've been in sales for most of my adult life. That means you're working selling yourself before you sell your product. And I've gotten to schmooze a lot of people, and I did pretty well at it. I think it's important to schmooze some of your other board members so that you can win them over and work them, not work them maybe, it's a good word, but probably not appropriate, in the right direction. In other words, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That's getting political. But I think that it's important that we all hear each other's opinions and points of view. This way we can say, yes or no, as far as what we're going to do, how to best proceed. And I think it's important that we get everyone across the board to be involved, not just issues or hostilities, things of that nature. I think it should be done in a community fashion. I hope that answers it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating.
Thank you. How are you, Ron? That was a very excellent question. On the board, everybody has different backgrounds, diversities. They add so much because everybody is different. Who has a background in sales, law, music, libraries, what Joy, what we all do. And it's wonderful. The thing you have to maintain when you all get together is that we are all equal and we all have something good to say. And we have to keep that peace. And I think sometimes people forget that we're all adults, especially when we're in a group together. We can kid around, but we're adults and we can't act like children and, start, like she said, poking at people, making fun of people, or not listening. They're hearing it, but they're not listening to the purpose and caring for people. And I've worked, believe me, it wasn't easy, with police officers and the public that was screaming and yelling. And the best thing to do is use psychology. Get down to the basics, calm down where we can speak now. And if you have a disagreement, let's take care of that. So we work as a unit, not who's talking about who's spreading rumors about who doesn't take care of things. My whole life, I've learned when you keep the situation under control, it'll always work. And you can make so many friends. The community feels that. And then when you present a meeting and you treat the people at the podium with love and respect, you'll get so much more out of people. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Klotz, we'll end with you.
Hi. Fostering a good feeling is not something, can you hear me all right? Okay. Fostering a good feeling is not something that comes easily when a group of people have diverse and heartfelt feelings. When the board is in a work session, opinions will be, I assume, because I haven't been there, but I've been on other committees, sometimes belligerently expressed. Once the discussion is over, though, as an adult and as a member of a 7-unit trustee team, you should set aside any personal animosity and agree with whatever decision is made. Yep. There are times you will not be happy as one of 7, but you have a responsibility to the community to act as adults running this community. It doesn't mean you have to love everybody. It doesn't mean you have to be best friends, but you have a responsibility to be civil and keep personal animosities out of a public discussion. That is my personal opinion, and that is the way I have worked when I have been on school boards. I mentioned that I was on 2 school boards and I lost an election. We had school closings. Let me tell you, I don't know what goes on in our board meetings, but those were really heated, nasty discussions. But when the decision was made, we all presented ourselves as adults, and that's what this is all about. That's what I can do. I'll play music, Ron. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Can we take a break after we have like 4 more questions?
Rosalind Davis, Malvern Court.
One moment, please, ma'am.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, two more questions, then break. 2 more. Is that okay with you?
Go ahead. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm Rosalind Davis, and I live on Malvern Court. And I left my house about a half hour before I had to get here. This is the point. And I parked really far away. And I don't know who to address this to, but there are very few, I have handicap plates. There are very few handicap spots. Even on the street that I live on the Circle, there's no handicapped. I want to know what any of you agree with me. There has to be more spaces outside that are marked handicapped. There has to be maybe even on streets when people, have a relative or somebody who has handicap plates, you can't park anywhere. So this is my opinion. I'm going to open it up. I don't know how to phrase it as a question, but it really, really, when I go to leave now, I hope I get to my car because it's so far away and I gave myself plenty of time. So I'll open it to the board or whomever is maybe in charge of this, who's on the board, but do you agree with me that we need more handicap spaces here?
So thank you for your statements, and I'll pose it as a question to the board. Is, do you agree that there's an issue with parking, and what, if anything, would you do if elected to address that issue? Is that a fair question to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Weinstein, we'll begin with you. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the first things that we did this year was to move all of the 30-minute parking in front of Willow to the other side and open up all those spots to handicap. So we did add quite a number of handicapped spots this year. Well, the problem being a 55-plus community is that there is an unbelievable number of people who feel that they're handicapped or are, I don't mean to indicate that they're not handicapped, but there are a large number of people with handicaps. Some of them you can see, some of them you can't see. And it is always a problem, but we all can't park in the first space. I don't know what the answer would be. There are handicap parking all across the front here, all across in front of the pool area, in front of the shuffleboard courts, as well as some other spots. But I do understand that it is a problem. I think it's more of a problem, actually, at Encore. And I think Encore is a bigger problem because it's a longer walk from the parking lot to the building, and I would like to see something change there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody?
Thanks a lot for the question. I was on the parking committee a few years ago, and what we did when we came to a circle to see whether or not people wanted others to park on a circle was to knock on doors. And when we discovered that there was a need, we reported that. And when we discovered that people didn't want people parking in a certain area, sit down.
I'm going to
Ross.
listen, but I can't
Sit
stand
down.
any
Sit
longer.
down. We dealt with that too. I agree with you that we are, well, some of us are approaching older age, and we might need more handicap spaces. Perhaps the spaces that are delineated for a half-hour parking to come into this building, maybe we could take at least half of them and make them handicapped, because you're right, there are a lot of people who need extra help. And I agree with that. I mean, I'm looking at knee surgery and I'm thinking, that we do need more handicap parking spaces. Naturally, in a senior development, we would need more than, let's say, in 60 acres. So I agree with you. We have to delineate more handicap parking. It's needed because of, I hate to say it, our age and our disabilities. I totally agree with you. And I always said to my friends, Encore is a gorgeous building. What possessed them to make the parking lot that far from the door is totally beyond me when they constructed it. But there's nothing we can do about it now. So to put more, as Mrs. Weinstein said, to put more handicap parking is a good idea. I guess I'm long-winded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. It is part of my plan that I've mentioned in my address on my list for issues that I want to take care of in the village. I mentioned about parking, not necessarily just handicapped, but the 6, 7, 8 variable signs that we have around the village for employee-only parking, handicap parking, 30-minute parking, 72-hour parking, dog can't cross the road parking. There is a concern, and the people here have been addressing it or making an effort to do that because of the parking issue. Handicap is a definite proportion, a large portion of it. What we can do at this point is try to perhaps police to make sure that everyone that is handicapped has the proper credentials, that people aren't just pulling in because it happens to be handy or convenient. But as Ms. Carmody said, the parking situation for when the building was built is from hunger. So unless we could come up with possibly a valet system, how would that be? I'm being facetious because I don't know. Would you want to park cars? You know, but yes, it is a concern and it is being looked at, and we'll see what we can do. And it is one of my issues for my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Yes, I agree with everybody that, and when Faye said there's people who, they're handicapped but you can't see it, you can get handicap plates now for mental disorder or something like that. People don't know it. They say they walk fine, they look fine. Maybe those people should take into consideration, you can walk, park a little further, leave it for people who need the handicap spaces, who have a wheelchair they got to get out of. Be considerate. I think an inventory should be made of how many we do have, how many we can improve on. And were you also asking, like, by your house where you live, there's handicap spots? There aren't any. Do you think there should be a designated?
Yeah. Just so you know, unfortunately, they're not able to hear your response from home because you're not using the microphone. I know if it's more comfortable for you to say, just so you know. Yeah,
that's okay. But I was wondering, Faye, is it allowed to have handicapped parking spaces like on residential blocks or no? In the circle?
Sorry.
Microphone.
I'm not sure you need it in the residential area because you have your driveway and you have your...
Well, yeah, I don't think every neighborhood has a driveway, right, or a garage or something.
No, but they have a
parking area.
An assigned parking space when they don't have a garage.
So I guess we just have to do inventory, and if we see some way that we can improve it, whew, a bird just flew in. If there's some way we can improve it, we're definitely going to do it. That will be part of everybody's plan here, just to improve it, because everybody is getting older, and unfortunately, you need help. And maybe in the future we will figure out a way by Encore. Maybe we have to move some grass or do something and make about 5 or 6 spaces. We can figure it out architecturally. There's plenty of really smart people that live here and that can contribute to the board with their information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
I'm going to take a different tactic. We're a community of good people. We have many volunteers. And I know I have driven several of my friends to meetings because they can't walk. And at Encore, I drop them off at the Circle and pick them up. And at Willow, I kind of do the same thing, and so do many, many other people that I know. So if you have a handicap issue where you need help, don't drive yourself. Let someone help you. Volunteer driving is not something that has to be onerous. I think that's the right word. Ask a friend. We all have friends. As to whether there can be personal home spots, I feel for you, but if you have family members who need to park very close to home, you move your own car or have someone else move your car where you have a driveway or a parking spot. We have people in our family, my cars go off, we bring cars down to the overflow so people can park on our driveway, even if they're just visiting for a couple of hours. I offer that to you as a suggestion and to the community as a whole. Don't think me nasty, but it's another way to handle a personal issue that has been investigated and we don't have a good answer for. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayoko.
Thank you, Rosalind. Yes, the parking situation here is a problem. However, we have to understand that the footprints of the village, the 800 and plus acres that we have, are firm. The developer had designed the streets, had designed the homes, and there's a minimal amount of changes that the association can make to that. What I would suggest, even though there's been a parking study done a few years back, that with the direction of management, who should be mostly aware of where problem situations are, management should take a look at and perhaps reinstitute a study of specialized individuals, including possible land architects, of what else we can do. Now, there have been some additional handicap parking spots designated here at Willow, as well as other areas, and obviously that does not satisfy the needs of our community. But we're at a point, as was mentioned, that perhaps we're at a point where the water is flowing over. The glass is the glass. We need to think outside the box. We need to brainstorm something. What alternatives are there, if any? So, yes, I agree there is a problem, but we would have to have another study done, if that's even doable, given the structure of the village design. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, and thank you for your question. This will be our last question, then we'll take a brief break, and we'll resume with more live questions after.
Hi, everyone. Eileen McCarthy, Sterling Street, here in Leisure Village West. I'm going to give you guys a break because I only have the question for Joy Carmody and Lou Maioka. Both of you have served on the board in the past, and both of you have chose to seek election again. In your hiatus, I know that you both are very involved in the community and listen to us residents on our issues. So, and then also you were at the meet and greet, and I'll meet you again. If you could please share with us why, briefly, like why you chose to run again and hopefully get elected, and if you could, one or two things that you really want to accomplish this time that maybe you didn't the last time.
Thank you for your question. I'm going to limit this question to just 1 minute response, since I do believe all of the candidates did address in good part about their goals and their main objectives if they were elected. So I am going to permit.
Excuse me, Joy probably can't even do it in 2 minutes, let alone one.
Don't tell everybody.
I'm going to limit to 1 minute.
And Lou also. They probably have a lot of things, but
I appreciate that.
You're the moderator.
Thank you. So, Ms. Carmody, with that, I'm going to begin with you, but 1 minute, excuse me.
The woman's right, I can't. But the thing is, I did retire for a year, but I realized that my job was not finished because I still saw problems that haven't been corrected, and I saw things that bother me personally. It's my feeling that if I see things that are incorrect or that could be improved, and I don't try to improve them, shame on me, not shame on the people who are maybe not up to what I feel is muster. I feel it would be inadequate of me as a person not to step forward and to step up and try to do something to help our development.
I tried.
I know.
You have 30 seconds still.
Oh, I'm finished. That's all right.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Maioka, you have 1 minute as well.
Thank you, Eileen. One of the things that I've seen is a lack of fiscal responsibility by management. I've seen a deterioration of funds, and I've seen a deterioration or lack of statistical information being provided during the open board meetings. Many years ago, the community manager would dissertate different projects that are underway, how many units were constructed, how many units were under a washing program, how many need to be done, how many AZAC. We are not receiving that information, and some of that information has to begin to come forward so that everybody knows what's going on. There's some accountability being placed in that department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. With that, we'll take a brief, we'll do 10-minute recess just in case anybody needs to step outside, and then we'll reconvene. That's why I said step outside. All right. All right, if everybody can find their way to their seats, please, so we can begin. We have just a few more live questions, and then we'll make our way to the emailed questions. Before we take our next question, I do want to correct an error that was made on my part. The candidates do have 1 minute to rebut something that the other candidates may have said during their comments. So, Ms. Weinstein, my sincerest apologies for cutting you off during your 1 minute rebuttal, which is permitted. So moving forward, we will permit all 6 candidates, if they have something they want to rebut to the other candidate that made a comment, they will have 1 minute to do so. That is open to any of the candidates. That being said, because I interrupted your rebuttal, Ms. Weinstein, I will give you 1 minute to make your comments on the termite, forget the language, assistance that you have here. And then Ms. Carmody, I will permit you 1 minute to respond to Ms. Weinstein's comments. I will also allow the remaining 4 members, if you do wish to rebut either of the comments of Ms. Weinstein or Ms. Carmody, the ability to do so. And we will do that before taking the next live question, ma'am. So I don't know if you want to have a brief seat, if that's okay. Okay, or you can stand there, whatever's comfortable. All right, so Ms. Weinstein, I'm opening up the floor to you.
Well, I don't know if you're going to hear me. I'm not getting any.
We're going to take 1 minute for Ms. Weinstein to make a comment, and then we'll take your question next.
I'll wait. They're rushing me. I'm not rushing.
No rush. Thank you. Ms. Weinstein, you have 1 minute to comment on your previous comment.
Thank you very much. Sorry I get excited about certain things, but our termite program is in effect. Our homes are sprayed. Not every home is sprayed every year. All the homes are sprayed within a 7-year period. And this year there has been very few swarms of termites, which usually we see more of. So the program actually is working. If you find that you have a problem or you see something, please call maintenance immediately. That is taken care of quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody, I will permit you 1 minute to respond back to that if you have a comment. If not, I see Mr. Mayoko would like to
Yes,
comment.
I'd like to...
1 moment. Would you like a response?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have 1 minute.
Thank you. When I was on the board, I can remember very distinctly cutting some of the money out because it saved money for the termite program. And to tell you the truth, I've been here 9 years and I've never once been treated for termites, to my knowledge. The other thing is, I have been told by the past grounds manager that program was discontinued. So I just thought perhaps the person who was in charge of these things knew what he was talking about.
Okay. Mr. Mayoko?
Yes, I recently had the opportunity to review the contract that we are now talking about. And I agree with Faye Weinstein. The contract is in force. It does provide for preventative measures for all homes to be inspected. Surprisingly, we are not getting notification of that. The homes that are being reviewed are also not being notified. All of a sudden, there is a person there doing an inspection, an exterior inspection. So I expect that now that this is disclosed, that management would pursue notifying residents when they're scheduled.
Thank you. Do any other candidates wish to comment on the termite program?
Hi, if I may.
Sure, 1 moment.
There's something that we've instituted that I haven't seen in a while now. When a service call is made, there was a time when you'd get a door hanger and they would put down the person, the issue, the date, and leave it with you, and a copy would then be going back to the office. It's a 2-part piece. I think these fell by the wayside, but I think it might be worthwhile instituting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that every candidate that wishes to speak on that topic? Okay, great. Thank you for your patience, ma'am. You can ask your question.
Marie Lamberti, Farrington Court. a question for all, and it's very short, and the answer can be abrupt.
Thank you.
In the event of an election, would you have residents vote by way of one, rejection ballot, or by way of election according to our LVW bylaws, which is 50%? So I would like your answers on each person, which their preference to the election is.
Thank you. Understood. Does every candidate understand the question being posed? Okay, so I will limit it to 1 minute since it is a fairly quick response, okay? And we are beginning with, let's begin with Ms. Carmody. Yeah, 1 minute.
It is my belief that we should always adhere to the bylaws. I think that's why they were made, and that's what we should do. We should adhere by the bylaws and vote accordingly.
Thank you. Mr. Kosevniak?
I happen to concur. I think we've instituted enough changes in here. I think we should stick with some of the original program. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
I'm on board with what they have to say. Stick with the bylaws and the original quorum of 898 and voters for the election.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
Hi, Marie. We've served on committees discussing this issue, and if I remember correctly, because I did not check these notes, because I did not know this question was coming up because you asked it last year, a rejection ballot is by state law permissible for certain type of events. A 50% LVW ballot per our bylaws would be used for other things. So I think it is the responsibility of the board to determine which is the appropriate methodology to use. So I believe we could use both of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko?
Yes. Hi, Marie. I would like to adhere to the bylaw standards. I understand why the change was made, and that's because the attendance has been so poor from the residents. So the community must stress that these votes are very, very important, and you need to respond to the question at hand that's being raised by resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Weinstein?
I support the rejection ballot because when we tried to change any kind of bylaw or amendment and do the 50%, we didn't have enough people even for quorum that voted. And more things got pushed by the wayside. The rejection ballots have been very successful, and I believe that we should continue using them.
Thank you. Thank you, all candidates, and thank you for your question.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
Hello, Suzanne Bailey. I live on Heather Court. I've been going to meetings for a really long time, and I vote for candidates individually, each individual person. I really look at them all, and I think most people do. But we always notice that at the public meetings, the board meetings, when there's a vote, the votes are always the same, except very rarely. They all vote yes or no, whatever it is. And I wondered if you're elected to the board and you find yourself differing with your other members in your workshop meetings, are you willing to stand up and actually vote the way you think, or are you compelled to vote the way the others think? Your individual vote is important. Many times it would still pass, but are you willing to stand up for it, even exposing yourself to difficulties?
Thank you. And is that a question posed to all candidates, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Kosevniak, we'll begin with you. I'm going to limit this to 1 minute as well per candidate.
Thank you. And I have been involved with the town, municipality, etc., when we have work meetings prior to the public meeting, much as is done here. sometimes referred to as the backdoor session. But I think it's important that you're able to vote your conscience, and I believe an explanation would be appropriate at the time for you changing or moving your vote in opposition, to give some grounds to the reasoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Yes. Well, I think everybody's ideas are important and have to be under consideration. Nobody's going to tell me how to vote for an issue. I don't follow people. I know what's right and I know what's wrong and what would be good for the community. So when I make a decision and everybody says no, I'll say, well, we got to go over this again, because I'm not standing down. And I would even at a board meeting say, I didn't agree with the rest of them, and I'm not afraid to do that. I have no fear about doing that at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
It's an interesting question, Suzanne. Suzanne. Right. Wrote it down incorrectly. I would like to think that I would vote my conscience, but voting my conscience in a work session is different than voting my conscience publicly. There are times, and you're going to make a face, but there are times when one has to bite the bullet, but there are times that one will stand up for one's own opinion. So unless you give me a specific, I cannot answer you in any other way than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko?
I will vote outside the way I vote inside. If I don't approve of an item and I have justifications and good reasons for it, that should be stated outside as well, not just at the board workshop meeting. So yes, I vote after due diligence and studying it the proper way. What's best for the community as a whole, not for just a select few. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Weinstein?
The first thing I said to the board was that when you go out and vote, please, if you want to vote no, that's fine. Please give your reasons. And I think you've seen this year, several people will vote no and explain why they're voting no, or when they vote yes, why they're voting yes. A lot of times in the back, someone has presented an opposing point of view, and it seems to make the most amount of sense, and frequently we will all find that that point of view is perhaps the best one for the village. So it just looks like we're all voting because one person did. We really are 7 separate votes. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Carmody?
In the past, when I was on the board for the last 3 years, there were times that I didn't vote with the rest of the people on the board. And I've voiced why I was for something or why I was against something each time. It is important to note, however, that when the board in a workshop session decides something amongst ourselves, that if a person, let's say if I was overruled, whatever it was, it would be my duty to go along with what the majority of the board members voted. However, when we're sitting out here, I agree with Faye that you vote your conscience and you tell the people why. I did that when I was on the board 3 years ago, and I'll do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you for your question. This will be our final live question, and then we'll break for the email question, the questions that were emailed in.
Hello, my name is David Sage. I live at 2A Edinburgh, and my question is how the members of the board feels about this contract with Verizon. And the reason I ask is because when I moved in here, I knew that there were certain amenities that I pay for, such as the pool and the clubhouse, but I don't feel cable TV, which is something that comes into my house, is an amenity. And I've been paying $30 a month since I moved in here, 6 years now, for something I don't even have. And to think that Verizon might raise it to say $50 or $60 and I still don't want it, I actually don't want to pay for it. I want to know what you members think of what I'm asking about this charge.
Thank you. So the question posed is as to your position on the current Verizon contract. I will allow each member 1 minute to respond to this, and Ms. Keating will begin with you.
So are you saying you don't use Verizon service, but you're getting billed for it?
I don't have any.
No, I don't see, I know you get a discount when you do bulk and the whole place gets it, but there has to be some exclusion to that, especially if you say, I don't want it. If you don't have it, you shouldn't be paying for a service that you are not using or watching.
That's what I feel about it, but I was told I had to pay for it.
Okay.
Because that was
Well,
part
we'd
of the
have to
deal.
look into the Verizon contract and, does it say whether a homeowner wants it or not, they're going to get billed? That's totally unfair. So we have to look into the legal and lawful aspects of the whole Verizon thing. And you can't charge people for a service they don't get. It seems like it's against the law to me, and you get discounts in bulk. I'm already paying $70-something, and it's only for the computer and the TV, but I use it. If you don't use it,
Right.
do you use a computer?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have the computer also?
Yeah, Ms. Keating, we're just
Oh,
going to
okay,
allow
I'm
just
sorry.
for your...
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's it.
Thank you. And for expediency, if you could just refrain from asking questions
I'm sorry.
back. That's
I'm
okay. No, just to keep, everything
right.
flowing. So
Okay, I got it.
you can use your full time. Thank you. Ms. Klotz.
Hi. I believe that providing a TV service, i.e. television, the old-fashioned television, is part of our either master deeds or our bylaws. I'm not sure off the top of my head which one. So the association has an obligation to provide you with that. How that interfaces with a Verizon contract or any other possible future contract we may have, I don't know those details. I'm not on the board, but it is something that the community has to look into, that the association has to investigate, forthcoming, and also possibly find out how many people don't use television at this point. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sage. This is a very complicated negotiation that's going to take place next year, but I must say that in the master deed and documents that you receive when you purchase the property here, as well as the bylaws, stipulates that television service will be provided at every unit. So that was part of the condition that had been made with Verizon. Subsequent to that was also the addition of internet, which came in hand with the fiber optics that were laid down as part of the infrastructure.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
All right, I apologize. It's Schedule A that requires us to provide TV, which is something that we actually can change without a 51% vote by the residents. Coming up this year in this contract, we have several things to discuss. One is, do we get rid of the bulk TV, and each unit is in charge of buying their own services, whether it be streaming or cable? What do we do with KLVW, which is now included in that contract, and that gives us our 5 channels in the 970, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 range. If we get rid of the bulk TV, will we still be able to do that? And we don't think so. And then what will Verizon charge us if we don't do bulk? Is it going to be more expensive? Very complicated questions that a lot of research will be doing in the next year. Verizon would not talk to us until October of 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Weinstein. Ms. Carmody?
Yes. When I first came on the board, we were negotiating the Verizon contract, and it is very complicated, to tell you the truth. As a matter of fact, I have to give credit where credit is due. Mr. Lupo was very knowledgeable, and so was Mr. D'Amato. They're very knowledgeable on this subject, and I did do a lot of research, and I asked quite a few questions of the attorney. Unfortunately, it is in our deeds that we provide TV service, whether or not you accept it or not. There was at that time, when we first instituted it, when we all got that $30 raise to have Verizon, there was a couple of people who protested because they didn't even have TVs. Just let us say this, there was someone who appeared and delivered TVs to those people who didn't have televisions at that time. So we try as a group, as neighbors, to accommodate everyone. This is something that's provided in your services, just like the pool, oh goodness, and everything else. If you choose not to use it, that's your own choice.
Thank you. And Mr. Kasivniak.
You're losing it.
Kasevniak.
I understand that there is negotiation time coming up for this program. When you moved in here, that was part of the package that you agreed to, that was given to you when you joined the LVW. To try to get out of it or whatever, make an exception. I don't know how many other people there may be making an exception. It could be looked into or reviewed, but it's a blanket setup the way it's done, and I don't really know if there's a lot of wiggle room to do something about it, but it would be worth investigating. Thank you.
Can I make a response to that?
No, sir.
I'm not allowed to?
Thank you.
Okay.
Do all the candidates feel like they've answered? Does anybody need additional rebuttal time? Yes, 1 minute.
I would just like to say this. When my sister moved here, she didn't use the pool, she didn't use the golf course, she didn't use several of our amenities. She couldn't get anything taken off her maintenance or her HOA because she didn't use those amenities. I know it's not happy for you to hear this, but TV is one of the amenities, just like all the other things. And if we start nitpicking and taking things out, it just doesn't work. We are a community and we work together. We're a unit.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, sir. Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
And with that, we will transition to the questions that were sent in via email.
Okay, with the moderator's permission, I'd like to not read the first 5 questions because they were directed to candidate Reese, who has withdrawn from the campaign.
That's approved.
Okay, then, and those 5 were submitted by Nick Raspa, 1055A Buckingham Drive, Manchester, New Jersey, on July 14th. But I do have 2 questions from Mr. Raspa. The first one was addressed to Ms. Reese, but also to Mr. Mayoko and Ms. Weinstein, so I'd like to read that question into the record. And again, that's from Nick Raspa, 1055 Buckingham Drive. In V. Reese's candidate video statement, there was an implication that there were units that had roofs which needed repair, had collapsed due to that condition. As a longtime resident of Leisure Village West, I am unaware that any units in Leisure Village West that suffered a collapsed roof other than those that experienced a fallen tree cast upon their unit. Would you please me and all the interested residents with the addresses of the units that underwent the scenario described? And that was to candidate Mayoko and candidate Weinstein.
Great. So I'll permit that question in part to the extent that you can answer it, given the fact that that question is asking about other candidates' statements that were made in their candidate statement. So to the extent that you can provide an answer, I will permit you 2 minutes to respond. The specific question asked relates to units that had roofs that needed repair that had collapsed due to a lack of repair. Ms. Weinstein, I'll begin with you. You have 2 minutes. If you can answer that question, I'll permit you the time to do so.
I'm a little at a loss because I've never said that we didn't repair a roof that was collapsed. The only roofs I know of that collapsed was when the tree fell in it following a storm, and that building was immediately fixed, or certainly as quickly as they could. we fix the roofs as quickly as we can, whenever there's an issue. If there's even a leak, the first thing they do is take care of it. Takes priority over all the other roofs.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko, if you have any comments to share, you have 2 minutes.
Well, not being on the board, I am not privy to the information that was disclosed, nor do I have that in any of my documents that were submitted for evaluation. Occasionally, I hear from residents that a certain house had a water problem, but not being on the board, I can't attest to the validity of that and what the cause was, so actually I can't respond to that question.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question was addressed to candidate Reese, but also candidate Mayoko and Weinstein. So I'd like to read that one into the record.
Yes.
And it's from Nick Raspa, 1055A Buckingham Drive. In V. Reese's candidate video statement, she alleged that there were negotiated contracts made by Leisure Village West in piecemeal. As a longtime resident of Leisure Village West, I am interested in this venue and its effects. Would you please provide me and all interested residents with the current example and its advantage or disadvantage to Leisure Village West?
I'm going to reject that question due to its vagueness, in light of the fact that this also comments on statements that were made from another candidate and not statements of either of these candidates. So without any more specificity as to these alleged negotiated contracts in piecemeal, I'm going to reject that question in its entirety.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we have 5 questions submitted by Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, addressed to candidate Reese. I'd like to not read those into the record with the moderator's permission.
Which ones?
5 from Jean, question number 8, 9, 10, 11, and
yes.
12.
And 12, yes.
Okay. Question 13 from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to Mark Kosivniak. You said you wanted members to vote for large expenditures. How do you see this working, as the members do not seem to agree on even small expenditures? Will this not tie the board's hands in trying to get things done? Also, there does not seem to be a large percentage that vote on many things. Please explain how this would work.
I'll permit the question. Do you need it read back, or do you understand the question?
Nope.
Okay. 2 minutes.
Dear Jean Marie, you and I spoke at one of the meetings, and I corrected myself because I mentioned vote, and it should have been to express their opinion at a board meeting. And I corrected her at the time, and she won't let it go, so she wants me to say it again. I stand corrected. I misspoke. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question number 14 from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to Mark Kosivniak. You mentioned interfund transfers. Did you account for the fact, hopefully I will explain this correctly, that if you transfer, say, $100,000 into a fund, next year's budget needs to include the $100,000 as the base and then increase as needed? This would then need to be charged to the members in increased HOA fees. What needs to be done for a transfer of funds, and have you explored which funds can be transferred?
Mr. Kosivniak, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. We talked about this interfund transfer, and it can be done, but there are legal requirements to do this, and there has to be a payback plan if you take any money from one fund to move to another or to expedite a payment, and it must be done with payback over a period of time, much as in the allotment for the parking fees, intake of any type of funding that would help replace the funds that you've moved. Thank you.
Does any other candidate wish to comment on interfund transfers? Ms. Weinstein, you have 2 minutes.
You cannot move funds from the reserves into operations. That is not legal. You can move monies around in operations, but like Mark says, if you take money out of one thing, you put a hole there, and it's borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. It really doesn't work very well. The reserve funds cannot be transferred to operations. They must be used as they were designed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other candidates? Okay. Thank you. Next question.
Question 15 from Jean Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to Joy Carmody. You have frequently made comments about being sanctioned. Please say if you have ever spoken about board business outside of a board's meeting or to anyone not on the board. Also, if you have had other sanctions been spoken to by any other board member regarding discussing board business.
I'm going to reject this question in its entirety as it seeks an answer or seeks to elicit a potential breach of confidentiality. I'm going to reject this question.
Question 16 from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to Joy Carmody. Regarding the pizza oven, you said you did not know what you were voting for. That is alarming that you should vote and not be aware of what you are voting on, especially as it would have been discussed in the workshop. Can you please provide more information?
Sure, I can.
Do you wish to? I was going to reject this question.
Never mind. If you, whatever you want to do.
I was going to reject this question as well. Next question.
I'm getting there. All right. Question number 17 from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to Pat Keating. I do not know you. All I know is of watching you at a board meeting. Now that you are running for the board, do you think the way you approached and spoke to the board members is acceptable? Do you think your comments were appropriate in the way you made them, the forum you used, and that you did not present proof? And how does this align with your motto of integrity?
I'm going to permit this question in part, and I'm going to open it up to all members, not just Ms. Keating, as it relates to comments, to speaking to board members, using the board forum to make comments and aligning with any intention or motto, so to speak, of your personal integrity. So past comments that you've made and your personal integrity moving forward, and ways in which you may have addressed the board in the past and moving forward, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I'll begin with you, Ms. Keating, since the question was directed to you, but I'm not singling anybody out, and if you feel like you want to address any comments that you've made in the past, I'll permit you the time to do so.
Yes. How I didn't, well, in my opinion, all I did was ask questions that we are allowed to do. And if I seemed like I was interrogating, I didn't want to seem that way, but I am so compassionate about things that are going on here. I asked the questions, and I wanted answers. Not one of my questions were answered, and I was very frustrated. And I don't think that what the board did to me was appropriate, and I never used foul language. I was not in any way or any shape or form out of conduct, but I was very moved by things that I found out, and I did have proof of what I was asking.
Thank you. I'll open it up to any other candidate that wishes to respond, comment. Ms. Carmody?
Yes, it's my opinion that there should be, again, respect between the people on that podium and the people that sit up here. I think we have to remember as trustees that we have to hold ourselves to a little higher standard, and we have to have decorum. I do totally believe that the residents who ask questions should be respectful and should have a basis for their questions. But again, mutual respect between the two is paramount.
Thank you.
Question 18 from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to all candidates. Please answer with a yes or no and do not deflect. Would you ever support a management team coming into LVW? If you answer with a maybe or deflection, it will be taken with a yes answer. I believe this is a repeat question.
Yes, this was the first question that was asked in the live session, so we are going to pass over this. Thank you.
Question 19, it's a two-parter. The first part I'm going to read is to Joy Carmody, and then the second part, when she wrote it, she does have one to all the candidates. So the first part is for Joy Carmody. It's from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to Joy. At an Irish American Club meeting, you mentioned needing a compliance officer, and again at your talk on KLVW-TV. Do you still feel that this is needed? Specifics as to why you feel that way. Is it something you plan to petition for if elected, and exactly how would that be paid for? You are on the board. What examples of gross mismanagement did you see that would require this? Give specific examples. If RHO fee would be increased for this, how much?
Do you understand the question posed? It was kind of loaded. Okay, and I'll limit the question too to obviously anything that would be protected by confidentiality.
Yeah. One of the things that I think that could be useful here is not necessarily an officer, like you're thinking of a police person. That's not my concept. Many other developments, HOAs and things of that sort, have compliance committees, and some do have a compliance officer. That doesn't lend just to one duty. Let's say the most common one that people are thinking of, I think, is the 5-foot area and things of that nature. A compliance committee makes sure that everything, if you'll pardon the expression, is kosher in every aspect of the development, in the trustees' actions and everything of that nature. I think having committees is very important because it encourages residents' participation. And as far as how would I pay for it, well, you don't pay for the committees. You don't pay for the administration committee or the architectural committee. If you had an individuals, perhaps their findings or their fines might be generative of their salaries. But I don't have anything written in stone. I have a lot of ideas, and I think we should include our residents. And there are many residents that are looking to a compliance committee to help us keep our rules and regulations and keep everything on the straight and narrow.
Thank you.
I think I answered that.
Does any other candidate wish to comment on that?
Well, the second part is to all candidates, very similar, so maybe I should read it.
Okay.
All other candidates, please answer as to wanting a compliance officer. Why specifically do you think there are problems with the budget, and specifically why do you want one, as there needs to be a reason?
Thank you. Mr. Kasevniak, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. One of the concerns I had that's in my platform should be a unit walkthrough every 2 years or so. This could be this committee. We're not hiring a person, we're using interior individuals, inside people, to help facilitate. And this way, the units can be reviewed, any issues that the people may have can be seen firsthand, and then we can proceed to remedy any situations or concerns that arise. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
His point of a walkthrough every 2 or 3 years, whatever, it not only is a good idea as far as repairs, but also I think it's a good idea because there's a lot of elderly people who don't even come out of their homes. And it might be good not only as a wellness check, but also to see what's going on with the people, make sure they're okay if they need anything. But the compliance committee, I think, is viable, and a lot has to be discussed about that.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
Got it. There are many different types of, quote, compliance officers / compliance committees. Many communities have a committee that goes around and does, I don't want to say investigations, but checks on things. Are you parking in the right place? Is your 5-foot area correct? Those kind of things we have had in the past. We had a volunteer who used to check 5-foot areas having nothing to do with the architectural committee. People got very angry. People also do not like people entering their homes. We just had a town reevaluation for the taxes. I wonder in this community how many people did not want that person to come into their home. There are privacy rights here. I think, if anything, compliance officers or committees have to be carefully defined. I do not think it's necessary. Right now, our community manager has the right to investigate reported problems that are brought to his attention, and that is where we as residents have the responsibility to let that our community manager know if we are worried about a neighbor, if we think something is wrong in a house, if there is something in your neighborhood that is not being kept up on a 5-foot area, we have someone who can act and should act at the direction of the board as a compliance manager. I don't think we need to hire someone or form a committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko?
A compliance officer is, in my mind, a very high-ranking individual that has credentials in a certain specific category, specific field, and normally they are certified as such. Normally, compliance officer deals with administration, finances, etc., following the rules and regulations. An example of here, it would be that management, as well as the board, is adhering to all aspects of the bylaws and the deeds. The compliance officer that seems to be throwing out here is a very loose term. Are you following the rules and regulations that are set and discussed in the handbook? Are you planting the right plants? Are your windows being kept clean? Is your plant overgrowing your roof? Whose responsibility of it? Typically, as was stated by one of the candidates, you don't want one of us, one of ourselves, going to a house across the street, pointing the finger, you're in violation. That's management's job, or that should be somebody else that's hired. We are here as fellow residents, as fellow neighbors. If we see something bad, you should report it. So be careful of what we ask for when we say compliance officer. Try to use another term if it's adhering to your grounds policies.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
Hiring a compliance officer as indicated not to follow and to review what the administration does, but to rather find all the violations of our rules and regulations in our handbook is going to cost everyone at minimum of $3 more a month. And what do you get from that? Right now, we have Danny Thomas, who works for our grounds, is doing his annual inspection of everyone's 5-foot areas. And believe me, people are very upset. They don't like being pointed out that the tree is above their roof, or the trees are too close to their house, or their mulch has come above the siding and at the ground level. So be careful what you really ask for. I don't personally think we really need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates.
Question 20 from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court. To Lou Mayoko, I was not here when you previously were on the board. Please explain why you left the board and why you are running now, addressing the timing of your running and what you want to accomplish on the board.
Mr. Mayoko, to the extent that you've answered it, if there's anything else you wanted to add, I'll permit you 2 minutes.
it was time to have some activities with my family and my grandchildren. I needed to take a hiatus. Back on the board because I don't like some of the changes that have taken place over the past few years, and I want to give back to our community what I have learned through my professional career over the past 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question 21 from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to all candidates. I ask that the order refrain. Yeah.
Please let her read the question.
Yeah. That's not correct.
That's not correct. There's people waiting to ask additional questions. If you have a question, you can get in line to ask a question.
Okay, that's question 21. I'll read it again from
Thank you.
Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to all the candidates. What have you done for LVW prior to running for the Board of Trustees? How have you been active in LVW as well?
That one was asked and answered. We'll move on.
Question 22 from Jean Marie Mustafa, 2A Yorkshire Court, to all candidates. What specifically will you bring to the board, and what are your plans while on the board? How will these plans be funded exactly? Which funds will they come from, out of, and HOA fees, increases, etc.?
That's asked and answered. Thank you.
Question 23 from Terry Tramaco, 904B Stratford Court, is to Ronnie Reese. I'd like to strike that question.
So stricken.
And Arthur Taylor, 660C Pulham Court, all candidates. Are you in favor of the association operating a food pantry out of our commercial rental space? Why are you in favor, or why are you against it?
I'll permit the question, 1 minute per candidate, and we'll begin with Ms. Keating.
I don't know much about it, but I'm all for food banks to help people in need. But I think it's very important in a community like this to help people who don't have enough, can't even go out and buy their own food, and neighbors are going over to their homes. So I want them to feel comfortable to go to a place that we set up for them. I don't know what finances are involved with it, or if it's something that is in the back and set up already. So I'll have to look further into that, but I'm for it.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
Thank you, Arthur. I know you're not here, but that's a good question. I have mixed feelings about the food pantry, but it is a volunteer idea that has come from the community that feels that there is a need. I think it should be given an opportunity to see if it succeeds, and if it doesn't succeed, we tried it. There are many resources in this community outside of the village where food, there's a term that's used, where people who are in a food desert, which we may be, have needs for food, and I just don't foresee it. There are Meals on Wheels, there is Compassionate Foods, there are church pantries, but this is an item that the community feels we should try, and I wish them the best of luck. Thank you.
Mr. Mayoko?
Yes, I understand, and that the program was reviewed and approved by the current Board of Trustees. Whether I'm in favor of it or not, I think now is a moot point, but as I agree with the statement that was just made, we should give it a try. My concern was any liabilities that the village then puts itself into, because now you're going to have to deal with the Food and Drug Administration for the proper handling of food, expiration dates, as well as how are you going to dispose of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
Thank you. We are patterning the food pantry on what we observed at Crestwood Village 5. It was a very simple, simple program. Food is donated, and it's all non-perishable. It is not perishable. There's no refrigeration. There's no freezers. It's just canned goods and boxed goods. And it is delivered to the residents. They don't have to apply for any kind of income restriction or limitation. The area that is being used is actually not rentable space. It was part of the bank. The delicatessen was not interested in this space, and the only access to it is around the back of the building, not in the front. So it's not rentable space, and I think it's a good use, and I think we should try it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody?
I would like to thank Mr. Miller for asking this question. Mr. Miller is the president of the African American Club, and a few years ago he suggested that he wanted to start a food pantry here. So I know he is in favor of it. His question about where it should be located is something that I vacillated about as well. My suggestion was the fact that we have a room that's kind of a storage room over in Leisure Fair, and I felt personally that that would be a better use for that space, because the deli or some other place might be able to use that. The only thing that bothers me about the food pantry is the lack of anonymity. As many of you know, I've been helping people and providing food for our residents for many years now. As a matter of fact, the Travel Club helped me with food donations that were dispersed by myself and another resident. So I know full well that we have a real problem here. No, thank you very much.
Mr. Krasevniak?
Thank you. Excuse me. The food pantry they're springing up around the areas. There's St. John's, there's the barn, there's some over and church parking places as well. And it's a lot of work. My wife is involved in St. John's pantry, and Ocean County provides delivery trucks by tractor trailer space, and there are a lot of requirements to classify the people that are needy or required to show cause, if you will, of why they're entitled to this food. It's not just a first come, first serve. And to get the food donated, you have to justify the people that are receiving it. It's quite an undertaking, and I hope it works, but I'm skeptical that we'll be able to get it off the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Question 25 from Arthur Taylor, 660C, Pulham Court, to all the candidates. Would you vote for the Coffee with the Board forum that we meet at different outdoor areas of our community to talk about issues? Explain your yes or no.
Okay. We'll begin with Ms. Klotz, 1 minute per candidate.
Yes, I can read
Yes.
it again. Would you vote for the Coffee with the Board forum that we meet at different outdoor areas of our community to talk about issues? Explain your yes or no.
I think the Coffee with the Board is a wonderful thing, and as I have said earlier on my video, I think it's a great idea. I think it's up to the board members where they would like to hold the Coffee for the Board informal meetings. I personally would not have gone to one on Saturday where it was like 103 degrees if it was set up at the fire pit. So I think that's an issue for the board members who are hosting to make their own determination. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko?
I would not be in favor of an outdoor Coffee with the Board for many reasons. Wind factor, the weather conditions, whether it's too humid, raining, threatening thunderstorm, and then you got to get, into an inside arena. I think they can rotate amongst the three halls, Leisure Fair, Willow, and Encore, but on an indoor setting where the environment is controlled, as well as the noise level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
Well, first of all, it's impractical. Coffee with the Board is based on having coffee with the board. So we brew 2 pots of coffee and we bring some snacks. That would not be possible if you are moving it around. I happen to like the coffee pots at Encore because they brew the smallest amount of coffee, but brew it quickly and brew it well. And then we have the space there with chairs and tables. It's just a matter of practicality. I don't see the purpose in moving it around. I really don't. We are open and we are available. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody?
Yes, I think that's an interesting idea, but personally I don't like bugs, so I wouldn't be going after that. But I will say this, it could be moved on occasion to the Willow Hall, because I know there are many people over there. I have friends over there who don't drive, and that way they could go to coffee with the board because they could walk to Willow, as opposed to always having it in Encore. So I would favor, alternating from one side of our village to the other side to afford people more access and greater access to coffee with the board, because I think it's a great concept.
Thank you. Mr. Krasevniak?
It's a very interesting topic. I'm a coffee drinker. I love to have coffee. I'm good for 2 or 3 mugs in the morning. Now, where I drink it is optional, I guess, because sometimes I'm on the road or whatever. So what we could do is, much what Ms. Carmody said, have coffee one place or the other, or maybe even at Leisure Fair one Saturday. I think it might be worthwhile putting it in the newsletter, and it could be in the monthly calendar, where we could put them a couple times and see how the turnout is after a month or two, and decide if there's one place more favorable than the other, and then take it from there. But it sounds like it's an open idea to me.
Thank you. Ms. Keating, we'll wrap up with you.
Well, there's no wrong answer here that I heard. I wouldn't mind going anywhere, but as long as it's put out so people know exactly where you are. I mean, it's easier for the board to stay in one place, but Joy's recommendation for the people on the other end, it's like a mile away. Every so often that would be nice. And then Leisure Fair is right next door, so that's convenient. But I don't think outdoor is going to work at all because of the different inclement weather that we could, have. But even if it's just 2 locations, 1 month it's over. Is it once a month? I don't know. Okay, so 1 month here, 1 month there, or 2 months here, 2 months there. But as long as it's in the bulletin so people are aware of it. Because I love coffee, I love tea, and I'm going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Question 26 from Mindy Horowitz, 7A Sterling Street, to all candidates. I would like to know what plans you have to bring forth as a board member to enhance the original areas of the village. These homes are now 50 years old, and the aluminum siding is old and worn looking, as well as the overall look of the front end of the village. Comments on more than one occasion have been made that this is the ghetto part of the village, and it's an insult to the owners residing in this portion of the village. Willow Hall 2 is still stuck in the 70s, and many of us use that portion of the village. There have been no significant improvements there, as there have been to the Encore facilities.
Thank you. We'll begin with you, Mr. Mayoko. 2 minutes as to any plans to enhance the original areas of the village.
Sure, thank you. Oftentimes we hear the complaints coming out from Willow area residents that they're forgotten about, that that's the depressed area of LVW, and the opposite end, the Encore section, is the privileged, which I'm sad to say that I hear that many times. I think that we can look to have a group from management review that area for minor improvements to the exterior that would just embellish the area, embellish the home. It could be simple things like shutters, or just change the colors to make them more upbeat with today's visions. So it doesn't have to be expending tremendous amounts of money, I hope, but I think we can get a bunch of, group together that can analyze and come up with different options, possibly consult with local architect firms to come up with proposals. Since we are not experts in that field, I always recommend that you go to the experts to guide us in making the right decision, rather than spend money frivolously. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
This year, we opened a new reserve, and I've started to fund it for replacing the siding in the Willow area. That siding, aluminum siding, is worn thin, and simply painting it won't really, it's over 50 years old, and it just needs to be replaced at this point. So we are funding it. The painting cycle has been completed, and instead of starting that cycle over again, the painting money will also go into the reserve fund, as well as, I think, I'm sorry, but I don't remember how many dollars. It might only be $1 per resident this year that'll go into that funding, but we are starting that fund, and we may find that the reserve study tells us we need to increase that money. So there are plans to update their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody?
I think Faye is absolutely right. We do need updating in that area, and I'll just give you an example. When I went over to visit my friends in that area, I had a business card in my hand, and I could slide the business card between the siding slats. That can't be good. You know, common sense tells you that's not good. So that section does need attention. And I have to tell you, I think she was very kind in saying that Willow Hall is stuck in the 70s, because I've often thought that myself. When I walk in here, all I can think of is Jimmy Hoffa is buried where we have all those stones. I think that's horrendous. When I first got on the board, Mr. Schultz and I talked about revitalizing that area, but it was put aside because other things had to be done. She's absolutely right. This is antiquated and things have to be upgraded here.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. I remember listening to Jim at a meeting a year or so ago discussing the residing or repainting of the units. And it was left, as far as I know, open, that they hadn't decided on which way to proceed. And that was more than a year ago. So I don't know if there is any outcome or anything that's pending to be done in that respect, but to do some sort of a permanent, either revitalizing or painting. So I'd like to see where that goes. In regard to Willow, I guess I'm old, I'm nostalgic. We just had a 65th birthday party outside on the patio last weekend, and the grills were used, the very comfortable tables and chairs were out there, and umbrellas that worked out very nicely. It's a nice shaded area with the stone wall, hip-high walls that people can sit on as well. I would say some interior renovation might be nice. There was a fire pit talk a while ago. I don't know if that was anything that'd be worthwhile or not to investigate, but I happen to enjoy the place very well. We went with the Knights of Columbus a couple years ago. We had a similar cookout in here. We cooked outside and provided everything ourselves, and it worked out very nicely. I think this is a nice building, and I have enjoyed it in the past. I wish I could continue to enjoy it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Well, I know if I owned one of those 50-year-old homes, I would have been screaming since I bought the place if it was 4 years ago. I think 50 years is way too long to wait. I think they should have been ahead of a lot of amenities that were done ahead of it. Like I said, I'm for homes first, and then stuff that we can enjoy. Yeah, we can enjoy fire pits and all this if the money is used wisely and if we're financially stable to spend that much money. But these homes should not have been now 50 years old and you can stick a credit card or a business card through it. How do they even live in there? How do you know what the sheathing looks like? When you take off that stuff, it's probably all rotted and molded, and that's why the walls fall off inside your homes. This should have been checked a long time ago and changed.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz?
Thank you. I have heard the expression, Willow is a ghetto, twice since this election cycle started. Yet I know people who live on Gramercy, I know people who live on Buckingham, who externally do their own gardening, they take care of their homes on the outside, they call maintenance when there are problems, and they get things taken care of. I understand that siding is a big issue. It's an expensive issue, and we've just learned that the board is beginning to act on that. The aesthetics of the Willow Hall section lead a lot to be desired because they're not contemporary with the styling that we have if you went to look at a new development now. I don't know if that can ever be addressed, but with some creativity, it could probably be brought more into contemporary styling. But that's aesthetics. People have to also do their own, take their own responsibility to do some gardening, to have their house look nice, that people want to come and visit them. There's no reason to think any area in this village is a ghetto. My lawn is horrible, but so is the lawn right now in Willow, and so are some of the lawns in the greenery section. There are beautiful homes in the Willow section. The prices of the larger homes are very competitive with the prices in other sections of the village where homes are larger. The smaller area homes, things can be decorated, plantings can be done. We have an obligation as a homeowner living here to make the best of what we bought. And if we rent, we have an obligation to maintain the home that we're renting. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. And this should be our last.
No, I think we have two more.
Two more.
Yeah.
Oh.
Question 27 from Arthur Taylor, 660C, Pulham Court, to all candidates. If you are elected, what recommendations would you offer to decrease our employee labor costs?
I'll permit 1 minute. Ms. Weinstein, we'll begin with you. Sorry, 1 minute. We'll begin with you, Ms.
I'm
Weinstein.
sorry, could you repeat the
Yes.
question?
No problem. If you are elected, what recommendations would you offer to decrease our employee labor costs?
Fire everybody? I don't know. I'm being sarcastic. Our employees are unionized, and as such, they have a union contract. And in that contract, we work with them and come to an agreement on what they would get paid, what their hours are, what their vacation and their benefits, et cetera, et cetera. We offered them a very good contract this year and gave them 30 days to, I think it was originally 30 days, that if they accepted the contract, we would give them retro pay. They chose not to accept the contract and drug it out for many more months, and eventually they lost that advantage. I don't know how you can reduce employment costs because everything else has gone up and so are salaries. What you can do is to make sure that our employees are doing the best job that they can during the time that they're here and not waste time.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. Weinstein for letting us know about the negotiations, because I would have thought that was confidential information, but she was good enough to give it to us, and I appreciate it. The only thing I could say as far as being an employee, I would like to recommend having better training for our employees so they could work smarter, not necessarily harder. I think we need cross-training, and I think we have to take the employees that we have and explain to them how to do their job more thoroughly and efficiently. I believe in training not only for our employees, but for our managers as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe some of this goes back to one of the initial comments that we made at the beginning of the meeting about possibly coming in with an outside headhunter system to find some competent people to manage what we're doing. And then they could work, cross-train, as mentioned, other people so they can handle alternate jobs, as in handling the garbage truck, as in cutting down a tree, as in cutting the lawns, etc. With the limitations, of course, if you need a certificate to be an electrician or whatever, there were, of course, restrictions. But I think it would be a good idea to be able to proceed in that vein to make the place more efficiently run and managed and kept up. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Well, it's not just our maintenance people and grounds people that get paid, it's also our administration. And I think, I don't know individually how much everybody makes, and I think that should be looked at to see if they qualify for the pay that they get. And that's where the training comes in, or they have to start at base pay. We can save a lot of money if we find out backgrounds of everybody. And okay, maintenance is under the union, so they all get paid a certain amount. But I don't think our employees in the office are in a union, so I think we could find out a lot more and save a lot more money if we find out what everybody's making. Thank you.
Ms. Klotz?
Okay. There are, as I understand it, two different levels of employees. There are confidential employees whose contracts and salaries are considered private and confidential, who have responsibilities above and beyond a normal, I don't want to say clerk because that diminishes that role, but who have different responsibilities than the people who might be part of our union staff. One of the things school boards used to do when they had a union contract that was tight is they'd fire the newest teachers. They ended up finding out that the people with seniority retired and nobody knew what to do because they were all brand new. I would think that we have to be careful and prudent with all of our costs, not just our labor costs. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayoko, we'll finish with you.
Yes, that is a very difficult question to respond to. Not being on the board, not privy to some of the information that just was, expressed by Ms. Weinstein, which is the contract negotiation and the percentages, not knowing the other part of the coin, which is the non-union employees. We do know everybody is cognizant of the fact that the labor market is very short. There aren't enough people that are qualified that need to get the job done. So everybody is scrambling. There's a lot of construction going on that are high-paying jobs. That's where everybody is going. So it's a tough, tough market. Other than proper training, cross-training, which I believe is going on here, it's going to be difficult to control that cost. I am also told that we are running way below budget in terms of personnel. So if we are budgeted for 40 people, we may be running at 30. But again, that's hearsay, haven't confirmed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our last question, I'm going to read, but I'm going to ask the moderator to rule on it.
Sure.
When she hears. It's from Anthony Prudenti, 515A Cheshire Court, it was for candidate Reese and Patricia Keating, so it's addressed only to Patricia Keating.
Understood.
We asked maintenance how many units are painted per year. We were told by one person 30 and by another 65. We asked for the addresses of the houses that were painted last year and the ones painted for so far this year. We were unable to get answers to that question. We then spoke to the man in charge of the painting. All he did was talk about zones, and we were not given and would not give us the information we asked for. I feel without that information, we have no way of telling how many houses that are done per year. Why is this information being kept from us if they are indeed doing 30 to 65 houses per year?
I'm going to reject this question. It calls for speculation. And with that, I think that ends our emailed questions.
I invite the next person in line to come to the podium.
There's 3 live questions. I think we should just... Hi, Beverly Kraft, Friar Court. This is to all candidates. Recently, the board has updated and passed policies some examples of which are parking, dog issues, 5-foot areas, flags and banners, and etc. Do you know and support these LVW policies? And if so, how would you proceed with the enforcement of the rules and regulations?
Just so I'm clear, were you specifically asking about the parking and the dog
No,
policies,
I was
or
just
all?
I'm sorry. I was just giving them as an example.
Okay, so are you talking about policies that have been enacted within the past year, or I'm just trying to
Yes.
narrow down a time frame for them?
Yes. Recently, the board has updated and passed these policies, some of which were the ones I just stated, but there are a number more that are in our documents.
Okay, and then the second part of the question?
Was, do you know them? Do you support them? And if so, how would you proceed with the enforcement of the rules and requirements or restrictions?
Okay, thank you. So limiting this to just policies that were recently passed, if you know any specific examples that you want to discuss, whether you support them and how you would enforce any policies that were just recently passed. I will limit this to 1 minute. I think we did discuss a lot of these throughout our conversation, so I'm going to begin with Ms. Carmody. I believe you're up. And again, any specific policies that you can mention.
Okay, as we know, many of our policies have been set forth via the Administration Committee, the Architectural Committee, and as you know, because you've been there, these people work very hard and they're very diligent. I think it would be a good recommendation when we make policies to include how we intend to enforce them. That might be something, I hate to say it again, but that a committee or somebody could try to see if they could. That's why I want to brainstorm this committee. I want to see exactly what we can do to help enforce the policies that we set forth. But again, it would be a good idea when we make the policies to think, how are we going to enforce this? Is it worth making the rule if nobody's going to enforce it? What good is it if we're not going to instill a need to follow the policies?
Mr. Ksevniak.
Thank you. I definitely agree with Joy on this. There are so many rules, regulations, policies. Look at all the blessed signs we have, which I mentioned before. There's at least a half a dozen, 7, 8, that tell you many things. But we need, as stated, someone to enforce, I guess would be the best word, to make it something that we can live with, we can tolerate, but also something that is beneficial and favorable to the people here. I think the idea of having a committee put all this stuff in a big basket and pick out one at a time and address it would be the way to get started, at least. Thank you.
Ms. Keating?
Yes, I agree with them both. And also, there are so many policies and rules and regulations, but one that comes to mind, which I just don't know why people do this, is speed. They speed down Buckingham, they speed down Thornbury. I mean, it's 25 miles an hour. Don't go past 30. Give me a break. You know, I walk my dogs. I'm like, stop, what are you doing? And they're flying past me at 50 or 60 miles an hour, and they wave at me. So I don't know how we can address this, you know, or enforce it, you know, or fine them because they're just flying around. We might just have to bring it up constantly at meetings to please. You know, you have enough time to brake, and God forbid an emergency, somebody steps into the street or a deer jumps across. If you're doing 25, you can stop instead of crashing into a tree. So there are policies that are very, very important. There, you know, if there's any criminal activity, that should be enforced in a different way. But speeding, you know, bad thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Goss?
We enforce our policies when they are brought to, we enforce our policies when they are brought to the attention of management. The board provides a fine system for most infractions of policies. The problem is that the board has to, The board and the manager has to be notified if there is an infraction, if it's not one that they could figure out themselves, such as parking. The community just rejected an increase of fines, so the board is limited as to how it could truly enforce and maintain our rules and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko?
I'm aware of most of the policies that you're referring to. I'm not aware of all of them, but certainly most of them. The problem is to enforce them becomes an issue, because what's the point of indicating a policy, writing it down, and nobody's going to follow through on it? That's the critical part. How do we follow through? I think that's where management has to dedicate an individual on a certain cycle basis to cite to the resident that there is a potential violation, and then given 30 days to correct that violation and then follow through on that. So yes, I'm aware of it. My concern is that we have too many, and you're not going to be able to maintain following that they are all being adhered to.
Thank you. And Ms. Weinstein, will end with you.
Thank you for the question. First of all, the policies are developed by committees. Groups of residents make up the administration committee. A separate group makes up the architectural committee, and financial policies are created by the finance department. When those policies are written, they're sent to the board. The board reviews them and sends them back. And then they review them and revise them and send them back again. It's not just a willy-nilly procedure that somebody thinks up something. Then, in order for us to enforce everything, we ask, if you see something, say something. That is the best way. We try very hard to be observant and to see what's going on around the community and to enforce as much as we can, but we can't see everything, so we ask for your cooperation.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Our last person in the queue has several questions, and if there's nobody else that wants to ask a question, I would like the moderator's permission for him to proceed to ask his questions.
Sure.
Ivan Gilbert, 4A Edinburgh Lane. These questions should be relatively quickly.
Okay.
It's quick to answer, so I think a 1-minute response would be
Wonderful.
Appropriate. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll begin with
or even less. So my first question is to all the candidates. If you had to name the one greatest issue of concern in our village, in your opinion, what is it, and how do you plan to address it?
Thank you. We will begin with Mr. Kazevniak.
That is a tough question. I have a list of at least 20, maybe 50 items that I have issue with. I would say safety is probably the most important. The car situation, the 200 to 300 unregistered vehicles that live here, the speeding that happens because people are just careless. You've got the two-generation system, of which I've mentioned before, the 55 to 65, who like to drive that speed. And you've got the 75 to 85 plus that don't even have a car in many cases. I think that would be something paramount in saving and helping our community go forward.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
I agree with you, Mark, but not only do 55 to 65 speed, 65 to 85 speed. And they're scary. They're scary. I'm afraid to ride my bike sometimes because it looks like they're coming right at me. Anyway, again, my most, besides speeding and all that other stuff, the houses are in need of repair, dire need of repair, and I'd rather see our monies go that direction, make sure everybody is safe and sound, and take care of everything as best that we can. Make sure everybody's accounted for and their houses are good. But that's my main grievance is the houses and the grounds. And they can't look awful like this. After 5 years, it went from looking pretty good, even during COVID, once a week, getting cut and trimmed and everything, to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and we have no sprinklers, and we don't have any edging, and everything looks like doo-doo, and my whole corner lot is weeded. So,
Thank you, Ms. Keating. Ms. Klotz?
Thank you for the question, Ivan. I keep going over and coming up with a whole list. But the bottom line for me is maintaining our property values, whether it's repair of homes, maintenance of grounds, keeping our facilities up. The board has a responsibility to maintain our property values because that is the future of this community. Whether we're here for 3 years or 6 years or this is our last best home, we have to keep our property values up for the future of this community to be able to be competitive in this housing market, whatever it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoka?
I agree with all the previous statements, but I want to add another one. And that is during our open board meeting, that the community gets more detailed information about what's going on. Number of homes that are behind in their inspection. Number of units that are going to be done next month. Some of the statistics that we were getting in the past have been put by the wayside. Let's return that information so we know exactly what's going on and we can address them without it becoming a crisis as it is today.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
I think our number one concern is financial. We are all on fixed incomes, or at least most of us are. We're retired. We're no longer bringing in disposable income. And I think that we have to make every attempt to keep our costs within line. As you know, several projects that I've been in the forefront, the memorial garden, trees, and now the dog park, I've all tried to do with non-budgeted monies, with raising funds from either outside the community or from our residents. And I think that we have to think outside the box and try to find ways to keep those costs in line.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody?
Yes. I know this might sound like a kumbaya moment, but I think we all have to realize that we have to understand each other and understand each other's, as Lou would say, wants and needs. We have to be more open and transparent. And I think we have to understand the needs of our younger population, our older population, the haves and have-nots. I think we have to be more cognizant of each other and care a little bit more about each other. Where some of us are in the twilight of our lives, and we have to realize that this is not going to be going forever. Someday, those 55-year-olds are going to be 95, and they better realize that if we don't take care of everybody, and if the older people don't realize that the younger people have needs as well, if we don't all work together, we're doomed. And I really think, too, that we need an open, as Lou said, an open account of everything that goes on in here. We need to be a little bit more transparent so we could all understand each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you have another question?
Yes.
Sure.
It's really for everybody, but I'd like to begin with the candidates who do not have board experience.
Okay.
What do you think is the most important role of a trustee?
So we'll start with Ms. Keating.
The most important role of a trustee? Well, I think to be honest, trustworthy, answer all questions posed to them to the best of their ability, help the people in this community as much as we can, persevere, and follow through on everything that's posed to you as a trustee. Whether you're in charge of it or not, make sure you find the correct information. If you don't know it immediately, you find the answer and you get back to those people. Take phone numbers and let them have answers. But you have to be extremely trustworthy and honest, and the transparency also, and give all information as much as it can to help others. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Klotz?
Thank you. The most important role of a trustee is financial and diligence. To be responsible financially and have prudent spending and guiding the community that way, and also to do your due diligence, to do your homework, and to be honest and forthright when dealing with association business. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kosevniak, do you want to respond? Yeah. I'm jumping ahead.
The issue is, I think, the trust that the people put into the board members needs to be reciprocal. You have to be able to approach a board, a member, and get an honest answer if they are permitted to do so. If there are legalities that restrict them is one thing, but hey, what's going on with? Well, we're talking about it, and this is the way it's leaning. And not gossip, but fact. And have the openness to be able to deliver the required information to make everybody along the way knowledgeable and informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody, we'll begin with you.
I think a trustee has to lead by example, first of all. You have to do things in a prudent manner. I've often was teased about the amount of research I do. I guess it's kind of my hobby. I like to look things up to ad nauseum. But we have to research and know what we're talking about, and we have to put our whole heart into it. But as I said before, respect is paramount between the residents and the trustees, and the residents have to feel that a trustee is a person that they could go to and have confidence in and rely on for their help. I really think, I know I said it 150 times already, but respect and cooperation are the big things, but lead by example.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoka?
The most important thing is admitting to the fiduciary responsibilities that you have. And that means that assuring that the board members, as well as management, are following the guidelines and the legal ramifications behind the master deed, all of its content, and the bylaws, and all the resolutions that were amended resolutions to the bylaws. So you have to stay current on that, and you have to make sure that that is being complied with, as well as develop a homogeneous atmosphere of camaraderie with your fellow trustees and the community.
Thank you. And Ms. Weinstein?
Thank you. The job of a board member is fiduciary first and foremost. We do not manage the staff on a day-to-day basis, but work with the community manager to provide and make sure he or she has the necessary resources. It's very important that we pay attention to the reports that come to us, the financial statements that come to us. It's important that we ask questions and we have ideas that perhaps can further the community without increasing our costs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Last question.
Okay.
This is directed to, again, the three candidates who do not have board experience. Okay. And it's a follow-up to Al D'Amato's question originally about the maintenance fee calculation. A number of you have stated, have raised issues concerning...
One moment. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you just repeat your question? The beginning of it? Yeah. As to the maintenance fee.
Yeah, so this is a follow-up to Al D'Amato's question originally about the maintenance fee calculation, and a number of you have touched upon the budget. So I know we're going to have a budget meeting coming up soon, and we'll definitely get into more discussions about that. But since you did touch upon the budget, I have one question here for you. all candidates have a right to meet with Jim and Michelle concerning the budget and how the budget operates and the aspects of it, all the ins and outs of it. Have you met with Jim and Michelle to discuss the budget?
Ms. Klotz, will begin with you. 1 minute.
I have a meeting scheduled with Michelle for next week. We had some family issues this week, and I am calling Jim to make an appointment now that my schedule has cleared. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kasevniak?
No.
And Ms. Keating?
I actually was not aware that we could make an appointment with them, but I think I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, candidates. Is there more?
Well, yes, unfortunately, just one. And this question I think we should allow, because this person who submitted this email question did ask me questions about submitting a question before, but somehow it got lost in the clouds and didn't make it to me.
Okay.
Okay. It's from Karen Hoyer, 1015A Buckingham. Question is for all candidates. She has a statement first. In this ever-changing world, the possibility is growing of a catastrophic weather-related event or a disaster that would impact our electric grids or weakening infrastructures and perhaps even our ability to evacuate. In such a case, Willow Hall alone would not be able to support maybe thousands of people or thousands of cars in the parking lot. Many residents would be unable to walk to Willow, especially from the Encore section. The maintenance fees we pay should be used not only for fun and games and maintenance, but for our safety, support, and security. Telling residents to install their own natural gas generators is not feasible. Not only is this unreasonable, costly, and aesthetically unpleasing, our new specifications make it prohibitive for most Encore homes. Question: if you were a trustee on the Board of Trustees, would you recommend any additional assistance, such as a full-size generator for Club Encore to help protect our people? If not, without using costs as an excuse, please explain why. Don't make me read that again, or at least the statement.
Can you just focus on the tail end of the final question?
Yes. If you were a trustee on the Board of Trustees, would you recommend any additional assistance, such as a full-size generator for Club Encore to help protect our people? If not, without using cost as an excuse, please explain why.
Right. I'll permit the question limited to the sense of, would you have any additional assistance for Club Encore or catastrophic events, some kind of reserve or some kind of plan in action for that? I'll leave that limited to that. Mr. Mayoko, I'll begin with you, and I'll permit 1 minute on this question.
My belief is that this question came up several years ago, where there was a proposal made to provide the Generac system over at Encore. I think it was voted down for its cost, but things have changed over the past few years. So I would certainly be willing to bring up the issue again if I were elected as a board member for consultation and assessment, if there would be, X dollars per member, not an assessment in terms of massive.
Thank you. Ms. Weinstein?
It was voted down mostly because of costs and because when we've had any issue, there have been very few people that actually come over to Willow where there is the gas generators. There is money available for such a purchase from the county. However, if we took their money, we would have to open it up to the general public. So for that reason, we have not pursued that. Certainly, I would be in favor of reinvestigating and researching it again. However, I'm not sure it's really necessary at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmody?
Yes, one of the reasons that a club that I belong to invited John Carverin in from the emergency services was to go over certain things. So one of the aspects that he taught us and he instructed us about was evacuation. If Willow Hall, let's say, is totally filled to capacity and we still had people who needed emergency services, there are branches of the Ocean County Sheriff's Department and our local department here to help people evacuate, especially those who, let's say, do not have transportation available to them. I have a vehicle. I could, let's say, go to my daughter's house, but many people do not have vehicles, and that's something that Mr. Kerwin was very informative about, and there were other links to go to other help services from him. So I like the idea of employing the people that we have in our county and our state governments, and I would also like to look into grants and things of that nature to offset the cost of any kind of additional generator over an Encore, but I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
I think this is a wonderful idea. I don't know that much about it, but I think it'd be worthwhile having the board bring in some experts and review it and get some numbers and the feasibility of it at capacity. A lot of research, I think, is required. If we don't already have it, we need to pursue it, and I think we need to pursue it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating?
Yes, thank you. I agree with everybody, and I can see how it would be costly, but since we got the solar panels put on the roofs of both places, I think solar generators would work out much better than gas generators, because if there's a special panel to just plug them in and everything works off the solar grids on the top, at least for the time being, because they hold a lot of energy. Me, myself, I didn't know that we could have this capability, but I bought my own solar powered generator. I have solar lighting. I have solar panels. So I am already in emergency mode, God forbid anything happens. But if also the Willow or Encore is full, there's a high school across the way, or with 37, maybe they would open up also for people who could drive and, take a whole bunch of people with them for safety. But it's a lot to look into, and we should have an evacuation plan in place. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Klotz will end with you. Microphone.
Okay. Excuse me. One of the things about being here for 15 years is I lived through Hurricane Sandy. We found at that time, and there were no generators then, that the Manchester Emergency Services had opened up, I believe, the high school or the junior high school right around the corner on Colonial. They had special assistance for people who needed medical treatment during that time. And that is what encouraged the community at the time to put the generator at Willow. I think possibly it is worthwhile investigating again, but we also must find out exactly what the city of Manchester, the township of Manchester, would provide to us in an emergency, as well as the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates.
That concludes the questions.
All right. Thank you, candidates, for all of your responses. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. We're now, yes, round of applause. We are now going to conclude with closing statements. So, Ms. Carmody, since we began with you, we're going to begin with Ms. Weinstein and work our way back towards me. So, Ms. Weinstein, whenever you're ready.
I have notes, but this is extemporaneous. Our current board has funded our homes, our restoration, our repairs. We provide roofs, cedar shakes, PVC, common area lighting, additional parking, concrete driveways, siding, exterior painting, and mailbox replacements. In addition, this year the board won a big case against Manchester Township regarding the water lines and the repair of such. That's saved us not only money currently, but a lot of money in the future. It is now written and it is lawful, and they can't go back again. I think the board has done a really good job of balancing needs and wants. This year, we joined 14 communities and 2 different meetings. In those meetings, we shared information and discovered what we offer is the most. We have the best purchasing history. Insurance is just one example. Our insurance rates, because we have in our contract a rateable, if we kept our ratables below 20%, they agreed to not increase us more than 6%. The surrounding communities, their insurance went up 18, 19, and 20%. This is just one way that we have saved money. The pools are another way that we have really saved money this year, and not only saved money, but I really believe that the pools have never looked as clean and as nice as they have this year. I hope you've noticed these changes and taken and will support my commitment to continue this positive direction. I thank you very much for your consideration and promise to respect you and your investment. Please vote for Faye Weinstein. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoko?
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks, Nicole. If elected to serve as a BOT member for another term, it is my hope to continue to represent you, the residents, by understanding your concerns, your frustrations, as well as your desires. While I cannot promise to fix everything, I will always do, as in the past, perform my due diligence and to ensure that the Board of Trustees and management decisions are in compliance with their HOA standards and procedures to preserve the integrity of our community. I will do my best to address the concerns of the residents in a timely manner. I feel your voice to be heard in order to foster new ideas in keeping the community viable while maintaining financial stability. Not everyone will agree with each other, nor will everyone always agree with my vote, but I can assure you that I take each and every suggestion seriously and perform my due diligence as a group and as an individual based on the community as a whole. After all, I too am an investor owner in this community. Thank you for your trust in me thus far, and please remember to vote Mayoko in the upcoming ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Klotz, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending, especially those at home who have been watching this and watching this and watching this. Your questions were very interesting. My goal, if I serve on the board, is to ensure that our homes and our facilities and grounds are maintained. I want to be fiscally prudent, and I promise you that I will try to make all decisions with that consideration in mind, especially if they are financial. The association is self-managed, not run by a management company. And as a trustee, I would work with my fellow trustees to ensure that the proper conduct and administration of the association and the operation of and maintenance of Leisure Village West is in the forefront of all decisions. This volunteer job is not a hobby. If you have not yet watched the videos from the candidates, I suggest you do so. It gives you a good idea of who we are, because we're all a little bit nervous up here and thumping once in a while. There are 9 items listed in the board's code of ethics. I can promise you that I will work my best to uphold them all and work on your behalf and use common sense to carefully balance needs and wants when it comes to budgetary items. I hope you will give me, Roberta Klotz, the opportunity to serve as a trustee. I'd like to thank our moderator, the election committee, KLVW-TV, and you, the voter. Whomever you choose to be your candidate or candidates, please vote. We need quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keating, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure to be here and for all of us to voice our opinions and what we want to do for all of you. I promise to do the very best that I can as far as finances go, our housing, how we live, to make sure everything is maintained to the best that it can be. That's what we're paying for, and that's what we're going to get as far as our driveways, our streets, you know, and make sure that things get done. And when you ask questions, it's so important to get answers. And any kind of problems with the house, like I said, should come first. No get on a waiting list. I would be looking into the finances and budgetary things, housing, and making sure everybody's taken care of to the best of my ability, and that we can all live in peace and harmony with the help of God. Please vote for whoever you choose, and don't forget my name, Pat Keating. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Krasevniak, whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. I wish to thank our moderator, Nicole, as well as the election committee for this opportunity to share views. This is well-founded and has shown much enlightenment to the program. Enough said. Thank one and all for coming and viewing. I do need your vote, and I want to proceed to make this place better. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Carmody?
Well, I hope by now most of you or many of you know me, and I hope you can rely on me as a satisfactory servant of yours, because that's actually what a trustee is. A trustee serves the people that we represent. I have always bore in mind the fiduciary responsibilities of a trustee. I have never, nor will I ever, relinquish my duties. I will always abide, and I have always abided by the code of conduct given to us by the Board of Trustees. But I have to tell you the truth. Whether or not I'm elected, I will still serve this community. I've tried to do my best to help as many residents as I can in different capacities and to serve you. I would like to be on the board. I would appreciate a chance to do some more things. And as Faye has said, we have worked many years, and some things have come to fruition this year to accomplish some great goals. I would like to continue to work towards some of these goals and some of our ambitions. And I do have ideas, and I'll make a commercial for John Kerwin. I'd like you to all look into the emergency services that we have. Maybe you won't be so nervous about being here, but I will serve you. Again, whether or not I'm on the board, but it would be nice if you voted for me. I would appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, and thank you for having me again this afternoon. Best of luck.
Turn the heat on. I don't know if you're cold, but
We hope. Thank you.
Okay, I want you to time me. It's got to be less than a minute. If I'm over a minute, you give me the bell and the red flag, okay? These are the closing remarks. A recording of this forum will be posted starting Monday, the 22nd of July on channel 975. It will be broadcast 4 times a day, so please check the KLVW station guide, which can be found on Front Steps, channel 970, as well as several of our local LVW Facebook page sites, since broadcast times will change weekly. The Election Committee would like to thank our moderator, Nicole, the association staff, the people, our unsung heroes in the broadcast booth. One second, I know I'm under the gun here. And you residents for participating in this year's forum, as well as our dedicated election staff working diligently both here this afternoon and in the upcoming weeks. Good afternoon. Remember to vote and to turn on your devices. Thank you very much.